OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 2. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles McLennan, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic.
What's going on?
What's happening today?
Well,
how are we feeling?
He got the first question.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to go there first.
Like question one.
How did you get the first question with Brad Treliving? What happened there, Jonas?
You're just kind of like waiting. It's a weird setup. Like you're kind of like motioning to like, hey, I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
And right when he was saying what he was saying, I was like, I got a million questions. I'll just like jump and try to get the first one in based on what he said.
Yeah.
Because I didn't totally understand what he was. I know what he was trying to say, but I don't totally know what he was trying to say.
Well, you asked about the DNA, which was a perfect question
It
asked.
was a great, and he even said, great question.
And then he was pausing. He's like, how am I going to answer this one?
Yeah.
Because that was kind of one of the bigger quotes where the DNA of this team has to change. And you asked him, well, what does that mean? Like, what does it look like? How do you do that?
The quote of the day for me. Like that DNA, and I thought your question was great. You know, he just didn't answer it.
Yeah, he didn't really I guess you asked him the question. So what did you make?
And at the end, he said, like, I don't know that I answered your question. I almost was like at the tip of your, when you're at the tip of your tongue, you're like, I got like something else I want to ask. I still don't know what that means. Like, because the team is the same. I'm not a scientist, but DNA, you can't really change DNA, can you? But he referred to in his answer that maybe they need to bring in outside DNA.
Well,
like
I think
different personalities.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot to get into based on what we heard from Brad Treliving today. The DNA clip. Okay, again, I don't know what that exactly means or what it looks like. I guess if Tavares and Marner leave, okay, there's a DNA change, but those are guys leaving. But I think what you bring up, Jonas, is an important point. It may be a shot or a direction towards players who are going to stay. Like, you better change your DNA, but I don't know if that's possible.
It's not.
Like, can Austin Matthews snap out of this and say, you know what, I'm going to be an absolute – I'm going to play like Barkov did last night.
Right.
Next time I'm in that situation.
But
I don't know if he can.
See, I got it. I interpreted it different. I went with what you've been saying all along. There's 4 of them that have the exact same DNA.
Mm-hmm.
It's addition by subtraction, because if you have 2, no problem, because you can build around. 4 is just too much. It's an insurmountable amount to build around if 4 guys are wired the exact same way. That's what I took out of it is the DNA, whether you change it, but you change the DNA because you can't have too many guys that are wired the same way. You just mentioned Barkov and the Florida Panthers. You can have Barkov and Reinhart who kind of have the way that they like to play. But then you surround them with some different type of DNA, the Marchands, the Kachucks, and Bennett's, stuff like that.
Now,
so that's the DNA I got out of it.
Sure, and that would, again, be a combination of both. The guys that leave that allow you to do that, but then the guys you bring in. But then, this is the thing about Florida. They're so good, and they did it again last night. They're going back to a cup final. It did not happen overnight. It takes a long time.
Yes.
And, they found Mikkola, and Reinhart happened to be available, and they made the deal. And Kachuk happened to be available and made the deal. Sam Bennett. Brad Treliving had Bennett and Kachuk, and they're both down in Florida.
Yeah.
So that was helpful for Florida that they found those guys. Mikkola they found. There's such a different it takes years to do that. Now, again, I think what Treliving brought up today, and I think it's important, and I think this gets kind of lost in the shuffle at times, is this is a really good team that had a really good year. You look at Rod Brindamore last night. Like, even Rod, remember, he was like, when someone finally asked him kind of a positive question, he was like, thank you. Like, we're in the conference final here. And I think that's kind of what needs to be considered here is you can't replicate Florida. Florida's just, everything's been perfect for them.
Right.
And they're an absolute demon, and they're a beast, and they're so good, and you're not going to do it. And when you try to do it, it's not going to work.
Right.
But what the Leafs have in terms of a framework is 2 goalies, 6 defensemen, 4 or 5 forwards that are still really good players, a couple who are superstars, They're here already.
Right.
So you do have the framework of a very good team.
Yep.
It's like, okay, how are you going to
build it up more?
Build that up and inject that winning DNA, which again is something everyone's seeking.
Right.
The Maple Leafs are not the only team looking for guys who know how to win. Right. Every team in the league wants that guy.
I struggle with that, though. Like
the intangible element of it?
Especially when it comes to winning. Like I've seen it here, and you've seen it here, where it's like you bring in a player from a Cup champion, and you're like, well, we got that guy now. He knows how to win. It's like, doesn't really work that way. You know, like, remember, like, this is way back, but they brought in, like, Christopher Stieg and Dave Boland, and those guys were good players on Chicago, but it doesn't really translate. Like, Sam Bennett might be really effective on Florida. He might not be so effective in that, like,
and we've been
if you bring him here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so specific to the place.
But it comes back to, maybe I just generalized it too much, but didn't you get the feeling like a different mix is what's needed? That's kind of, you know.
But how extreme would you expect that to be?
I think
can one player out and one or two in?
And that's the thing, Hayes. Like, if Marner was willing to stay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you think they'd want to keep him still?
Well, that question wasn't asked today, and it was interesting. Again, me being hero on the couch, going, how come this question wasn't asked, or how come there wasn't a follow-up on that?
You get one question.
And then one at the end is talking about the scouting staff. I'm like, that could have been if somebody asked about the scouting staff, I'm like, can you just stay on point here? Like, I don't know what that question was and who asked that question, but why are you asking him about the scouting staff when you've got one question to ask about what just happened and that? And I get it, but I'm sitting there going, okay, at the end of the day, did anybody point blank, are you interested in signing Mitch Marner?
Well, he was asked about Marner in like roundabout ways.
Yeah.
But he didn't actually say, like, he kind of danced around it. Like, he kind of said, like, we got to go through the process. Like, the season ended like 11 days ago. Like,
yeah, well, we have an example of it. Do you want to hear an example of being asked about Marner and how he responded? This is Brad Treliving earlier this morning.
We're in that process right now. I had a meeting with all the players individually. We do our exit meetings. Mitch and I had a discussion. It's emotional right now, right? And so my discussion with Mitch is, let's all take a step back. Let's take a deep breath. I got to decompress a little bit. So we're going to meet as a staff. I'm going to be in touch with Mitch's representative and all of our players' representative, and determine what's best. Right now, Mitch has a say in this as well, right? So this isn't the world according to Brad. I think he's a great player. He's been a great player here. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how this all works. Can I think Mitch can succeed? Yes, I do.
So that last point I think is important. I think you also have to remember that it has been well documented. The Leafs have been trying to engage with him all year, and Marner has not been willing to even talk. To that is our understanding.
Right.
So Treliving also might be in a position where he's like, I don't want us to look so desperate here and say we're dying to have Mitch back and we're calling him off the hook and he's not answering, and then this guy leaves on July 1st.
Yeah.
And then how do you explain it? Like, I think I think the way Treliving spun it today was, if Marner leaves, it's because Marner wanted to leave.
Right. Not that we didn't want.
Yeah. And he does. And then he won't have to really answer it. He'll never give you an answer. He'll filibuster and say, listen, we love Mitch. He's a great player. You know, it's too bad that it couldn't work out. He made the decision, though, and he's gone somewhere else, and we'll go in a different direction. He'll never be pinned down if Marner makes the decision to leave. But to answer your earlier question about whether or not we think the Leafs would try to sign him, I don't think it's 100% certain they would. I don't think it's 0% though.
And so that gets
and it
to
never
my
has
question.
been with this team.
It's like, if you want to change the team, but like you're willing to sign that guy and like you're willing to sign Tavares, you're basically keeping the same team.
Well, and it's change happening not because you're deciding it, because again, Marner is saying, I'm leaving.
Yeah. Well,
right? It has nothing to do with you and your plans and your DNA test. It's, I'm out of here.
Right.
And, Tavares could be a different story. But
everybody is talking, and I don't know, maybe we can go back on it, but it just, Tree looked like he was talking in past tense with Marner.
As Marner did on his
walkout. There has been a lot of past tense. Loved my time in Toronto, all of that type of stuff. I think Mitch can win. Like,
you might as well. Like, what? You're not going to bury the guy.
No.
He was not coming in to say, and it's not fair to Marner to say, like, we need change, and it's Mitch that's going, and that's the change we need.
Listen,
that's not fair. And it's not accurate because
exactly.
there's other guys that didn't show up either in these big moments.
100%. This is not all on Mitch Marner. Has earned the right to become an unrestricted free agent. That's his right, and whether he chooses to move on or not, like, they'll have to live with it. My only, I guess, from a business standpoint, like, it's been tough on the Leafs to go, we got to figure out, you're staying, you're not staying.
Yes.
So we talked about it, was it yesterday or the day before, is would love for Tree to come out and definitively, he's not coming back.
I know.
Like,
So why not say that?
Because in the end, it's like he just said,
but couldn't you
there's
say
still a chance that if Marner goes, the Steven Stamkos, the marketplace looked good out here, but I would like to stay.
But that, again, I think what you're getting to is that would say the Leafs want him to stay. Where if you realize we have a problem here, we've got to change it, they should be calling Mitch and saying, thank you for great 9 years.
So just
we're going somewhere else.
What if you came out and said, you know what? It's been great. He's one of the best players this team has ever had. There's no doubt about that. But we think it's time to move on. Would that be so wrong? Like,
yeah, no. I mean, I don't think it would be. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I would have liked to have maybe heard that if that's the truth, but I don't know if it is the truth. I don't know if that's really how they feel. But what it also would open the door to is then you got to go to the next guy, and that's Tavares. It's like, okay, if you're making that decision on Marner without even considering where he stands, like maybe Mitch circles back and I think Treliving spoke eloquently about, the dust settles like it does every single year with every single team. It's no different here from everywhere else. And you breathe a little bit, and you get out of the emotion of it all, and you say, okay, what do we actually have? What are we doing? Where are we going with this? And that could happen with Marner. With Tavares, though, it's different. And what I took out of it from the Tavares standpoint is the door's open for them not to bring him back.
He was less committal than I thought.
That I think is more significant news.
That's what I actually was like, because the way John was speaking, the ink was just about dry. Where the way Tree spoke was like, we had a good chat.
We will see.
We will see.
Yes, because the Marner, there's a dance. There's an element to a dance here because Mitch is the number one free agent. And like he's in his prime, 100-point guy, Selke contending player that is a great player, and he plays every single night. No injury issues or anything. He's going to show up and he's going to play, and he's the number one guy, and he's going to fetch a fortune, and a lot of teams are going to be calling on him. And I think there's an element of Treliving probably looking at it saying, I don't know if I want to be like, well, we really want him back, and then Mitch's camp is going to use that and apply it once they get to free agency. And I think it's more delicate with him.
Yeah, it's fair.
Where Tavares is a different story because, like Marner, this is, I guess, the way to put it. If you move off Mitch Marner, if you make that decision, then you're making an evaluation that is a negative one in connotation. That even with the 100 points, even with the Selke, even with making Canada, and he's probably going to be on the Canadian team at the Olympic Games, even with all that, you determined that's not for us. Like, that's sharp evaluation. And, quite frankly, criticism. I don't think they're going to do that because I think they respect him too much. Tavares, you can sell it as you're 35. It's different now. We're worried about the wheels falling off.
Yeah, exactly.
Marner's wheels aren't falling off.
No,
Marner's going to be great for the next 6, 7, 8 years.
Tavares is a business decision.
Yes.
Mitch is the DNA decision.
That's the way to put it. And listen, Tavares factors into the DNA too. He's been here for 7 years. He was the captain for 6 of those, or 5 of those. And he's a big personality, and he's a prominent player, and he's a local guy, and he's got endorsements, and everyone knows him, and everyone's known him since he was like 10 years old in this area.
Right.
Like he was a phenom growing up. Exceptional status to the O, all that stuff. He has been a larger than life figure in this market for a long time. But he's 35.
Yeah.
He's moved. He's not a number one center, and he'll never be a number one center again. Anywhere he goes, that's not the role he's likely to play.
Right.
You can't use that with Mitch.
Yeah.
If you decide I don't want Mitch Marner back, that means you're saying there's something about Mitch Marner, or at least the way he jives with everyone else that I don't like or I don't want
or
as a part of my team.
But it was that line he said at the end. He said something like, I believe he can succeed, and I think he meant here, like in Toronto.
See, I didn't. I took it the other way though.
Oh, really?
I believe he can.
But even if he meant here, it's a throwaway comment that no one's going to hold him to.
But I guess what I was going to say is like what you're saying. If he came out and said what you're saying is implicitly maybe implied, I don't think anyone would be like, yeah, I don't understand why you're doing that. Do you know what I mean?
In terms of Marner?
Yeah,
In
like if
terms
you
of
came
him
out and said, you know what, it's been great, it's time. I don't think any of us would be like, I don't understand that at all.
Well,
we'd be like,
no,
yeah,
but
that makes sense. Like,
keep in
we've been
mind,
talking
though,
about this for 5 years.
Right.
You're right. Look at the other side of it. And somebody did ask. Listen, I think all the questions were good. I just was like, I wish there was more of them. I think that's what it was. But somebody did ask, and he talked about it. Like, if Mitch Marner chooses to leave, like there's not a guy on a tree that you go and pull, hey, here's another Mitch Marner. It's the changing of the look. And that's what we've been saying all along. You're not replacing Mitch Marner with another 100-point guy. It might be two guys. It might be a combination.
And here's another part of it in terms of why you may not publicly reveal it. As much as it would be very refreshing and possibly very honest and genuine, like if that's the way he sees it, that Marner's, they got to move on from Marner.
Right.
Is again, Shanahan's not here anymore, but when he arrived, one of his things was to, make it comfortable for the players and to embrace the history and the legends of the game and the legends of the team. And again, the dust will settle down the road and people will look back on the story of Marner as certainly incomplete. It wasn't finished. Ending on somewhat of maybe a tragic.
I think it's kind of sad. Honestly.
Somewhat sad because it's the local guy that got drafted here, this young guy that went down to London. He's a wizard. He showed up and he was unbelievable. And it should have been the greatest story ever. Yeah. It really should have been. And if he leaves, then it ultimately won't be. But again, Lanny McDonald left. He didn't win. Everyone loves Lanny McDonald. Dougie Gilmour was here for a handful of years and left and played all over the league, and we all love Doug Gilmour. And there's a number of different guys. There's a chance 10, 15, 20 years from now, Mitch Marner will return to the market, and it will.
I think you're right.
And I think you want
be celebrated.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Treliving and Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment are cognizant of that. And they're like, let's be careful with how we speak on the way out. Right. But I also think there's the most important element to this in terms of not going public with that evaluation. If the evaluation is we just got to get out of the Mitch Marner game because it doesn't work. The follow-up question is, then why does Austin Matthews work? Why are you in his? Why are you still?
Well, he has a contract.
No, but that's a different conversation, Jonas. If you're deciding we don't want to issue a contract to Mitch Marner. That's what we're talking about here. Hypothetically, Mitch could say, I'll play for league minimum. And they say, no, we don't want you here anymore because we need something different.
Right.
You come out and say that. The follow-up is, well, why is 34? What does he have that guy doesn't have? What does Nylander have?
88.
Why does he get to stay then?
Like, are you going to blow up the entire team?
But if you feel like you got DNA issues, and again, it's the core. Why is it that guy as opposed to the other guys? If you've made the decision, it should be that guy. How would you answer that?
I think
I don't know if he would have an answer.
No, but
other than we signed them and there are they play different positions, and Austin might be a little bit different.
Right.
Willie's not, though.
Well,
Willie was horrendous in Game 5 and Game 7.
Yeah, but he also had more moments in those playoffs than Marner or
Game 6 against Ottawa.
The first round, he had 15 points in the play. Like,
Game 6 against Ottawa.
The last part of the series against Florida, he was not good at all.
No, completely 5-6, checked out. And it's just I'm not running at Willie. That's not my point.
I think what you're getting at though is this is not their decision. He clearly does not. Well, it appears he does not want to stay.
That's where I think
this is it's not there to call.
It might be the elephant in the room, as they've been told already. Don't even bother.
Even if they haven't been told, look what happened during the season. Like they wanted to sign him, he didn't want to sign. Cool.
So this has been a long-standing. The unique position we are in is we've had these conversations for years.
Yes.
About the term-on-term core four. You got to break it up. Well, now, when they are looking that it is going to be somewhat broken up or some version of it, people are like, well, you got to be careful with that. Well, that comes back to the word DNA, just the makeup of the group. It doesn't, and I think Tree did a good job laying out is, let's have some perspective here. We've got a very good team. So let's, I liked how he said, let's work backwards from this. He went through everything,
108 points,
face-off, all of that.
Yes,
post,
how they
all
played
of
down
that.
the stretch.
I like the Matthews injury question too. I thought that was a good question. I can't remember who brought it up, but I just in looking at it, he said he almost admitted it, saying this group as it's constructed, the core four, all of that doesn't work. We've just got 9 years of data with it.
And listen, it's long overdue. I think we all of us agree with that. It in retrospect, they should have gotten off of it years ago, but they chose not to. They chose to stick with it, and some of it was contracts, but they handed out those contracts.
Right.
And ultimately, they're here. And the core four and everything that came with it, they make the playoffs every single year.
Yeah.
2 of the last 3 years, they've been into the second round. They've run into Florida. No one beats Florida. They're all of this is true, but I guess what I'm getting at when I look at Matthews and I look at Nylander, they haven't won either. No one. So even if Mitch leaves, which I think he will, and maybe they move off Tavares, the guys who are coming back, they got to prove that they can be comfortable in those big moments, which is what he talked about all day today. Because ultimately, it is the slimmest of margins, but it's the most important margin there is in pro sports.
It's the it gene.
It's go time. It's under the lights, go time.
Clutch.
The clutch. It's the clutch gene. I don't think Jonas believes in the clutch gene.
You don't believe in it.
I think it's been disproven in baseball.
Baseball, that's it.
I don't know if I believe
disproven
that.
in baseball.
There was a whole big thing about Jeter and how.
What about Aaron Judge? He doesn't hit the playoffs.
He's not clutch for sure.
So he doesn't have a clutch gene?
Did you see the playoffs last year?
It wasn't great. Have you been watching him play this year? Do you think he's clutch?
Regular season.
I don't know.
That's a good point. All right.
But
you're right, Jonas.
But
My bad.
He did talk about the process and, rising to the moment, and the best players have that calming ability in a game 7, in a deciding game. So, maybe again, we're not behind the curtain. They've obviously, Brad Treliving's been here 2 years. Craig Berube's been here 1.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you they've talked until they're blue in the face as to all of how this looks and how it feels and all of that. He even talked about Game 7. He said that morning it felt confident.
It felt like everything was all good.
But he said at the Seth Jones goal, it may as well have been 4-0.
It completely collapsed.
Was, we can go back and look at it. You're right. The team was paralyzed after that.
When they went down 3-0, I remember writing in my notes, they're playing like the game is over. And it's like, there's half of the game left.
Well, and that was when Berube started.
Last night.
Yeah. Berube was yelling, and that's when Marner was saying, wake up. And all, it was all within a 7 or 8 minute stretch. A complete
But can
unraveling.
I add one thing? You're not going to like this.
He prefaces it.
As much as those players at the top deserve a lot of the scrutiny that they're getting, the rest of the players weren't good enough. That's partly on the front office.
Yep.
I don't think they brought in the right people. They're going to have to fix that this summer. I don't know if that's DNA. I think talent is probably what you probably need more of.
Flexibility. So you don't have to have league minimum contracts and stuff. You can have a $3 million player playing farther down in your lineup because you haven't, you don't have it all at the top of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
That's, with all of this, what we've been talking about, if Mitch Marner chooses to move on, if they move from John Tavares, or he signs a really tiny contract, you got money to spend on players to round this group out to make that 7th forward really good. Maybe there is. There was a question about their decor. And Tree was pretty...
You mentioned puck moving.
Puck moving. We're seeing it. We're seeing it in the playoffs.
Look at that Jake Wallman. Move the puck.
Well, Klingberg all of a sudden has come to life. But, last night it's Forsling. Forsling gets it picked off. I thought that game was... I can't believe Florida came back in that game. I can believe, but I thought, okay, Carolina's got something here. And Florida just continued to chip and chip and chip. And that was
gone in 30 seconds.
It was gone. But puck-moving defensemen and more depth to help that group. And internal growth. Maybe Matthew Nyes stabilizes takes another step, or maybe we just see what he is as far as his ceiling, which is a really damn good player. Mm-hmm. So, there's lots. But there's decisions to be made, yes, with those two. But you're right. What are you doing with the Yarncroaks and guys like that?
5 of their bottom 6 forwards didn't score in the playoffs. That's as much as it's on the Stars. You're allowed to help, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
look at Florida. Like, look at their third line. Like, look how good that third line is.
Now again, Florida is
Yeah.
Look at
They're-
Edmonton. Like,
Yeah.
Henrique scored key goals from it. Connor
sure.
Brown. You know what I mean?
yeah. Listen, I'm not
true.
disputing the importance of depth. I mean, I think it's necessary. I think the issue again is that the core guys have made so much money
Yeah.
that there just has not been enough flexibility.
Was the choice, as you know, of the front office.
They made that decision.
Yes.
Exactly. And also, again, this gets back to the scouting. I think a reasonable question is ideally you've got 2 or 3 kids on your bottom 6 that are like ready to burst,
They don't have that.
and they never have that.
Yeah.
Like they never have a 21, 22-year-old kid who's just like chomping at the bit. Throw him in there. Throw him on the 4th line.
Yeah.
Instead, it's, let's pick up Lawrence or let's go get Lawton or maybe
Pacioretty.
It's like a
Pacioretty
couple
or-
years ago, Dallas gets Stankov, and you're like, where's
and
this
he's
guy
playing,
from?
and he's like, man, look
good.
at this guy, and like that means the opponent's like, man, we got this guy can play, and he's only
Dallas-
going to play 13, 14 minutes.
Dallas has that Bork kid who was an
Yes.
AHL
They got a
top
bunch of
scorer.
young players.
You're right, and so what you're saying is the scouting question.
No,
wasn't as bad
I
as
don't even remember the
I
context
think
of it. I'm joking around.
I don't want
but
to take a shot. I think it was Scott Wheeler that might have asked it,
was
wasn't it? Okay.
My buddy,
Who?
Josh Cloak.
Oh,
It
I
was-
love John.
Oh, we love Cloak.
Well,
Hello,
You got to ask him why the hell he asked that question.
Uncle Leo.
It was more. Was it more about building the scouting depth of it?
You don't get so many availabilities with the GM.
Right.
You kind of got to pick and choose your spots for what you're working on.
He's a draft guy, right? Like Josh is. All right. Well, apologize to him for me.
I will.
Yeah,
because
well, we
didn't-
all
I
apologize
didn't,
right
like,
now.
The tough thing in those is like you get one question basically. It's like that was not the question I asked was not the question I wanted to ask.
Well, what was the question?
I had
You
like
got a
3 or
perfect
4
world. What's
I
the
had 3
question
or
you would
4
ask
questions.
right
Okay.
now that you didn't?
Why don't we come back and we'll
Yeah.
do a little role play? You can ask.
Okay.
Noodles and I'll play the
pretend
role
I'm
of Brad
free.
Treliving. You play
You
Brad
ask me.
Treliving.
I got to get my notebook.
We've got a list that you're going to get to.
Yep.
Right. I got a list I'm working on. I may workshop it with you guys.
Yeah.
Right? I'm because I was going to put a list together of the best teams since the lockout, in the Cap era. Like now that we're considering Florida's into the Cup final now for a 3rd straight year. Maybe I will use Florida, and I'm going to throw other teams at you, and you guys tell me. Use TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles McLennan, Jonas Siegel in here of The Athletic. Brad Treliving spoke this morning. We're hoping to have him on the show in the next couple of days anyway. Possibly into next week. We'll see. But we'll get him on. We'll ask all these questions.
We'll ask for next week.
I think so. I'm off tomorrow.
I'm not. Well,
and O's off, so it'll be all. You can go Larry King tomorrow if you want.
I could go Larry King.
It'll
and
be all
you know
all the time.
And Josh Cloakey can call me and tell me that I asked bad questions.
Absolutely be like, well, I noticed on your third question you
exactly
bumbled that. That was stupid. Yeah, because O's up at Osprey Valley today. They're up there at the NHLPA and Golf Canada. Have been doing stuff. Carlo Koliakova was there. What was interesting was William Nylander was there.
Oh, yeah, I looked happy as hell. I'll tell
Willie
you that.
goes all the way over there, wins a bronze, and then comes back over and starts slashing it around Osprey Valley.
With his brother.
With Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked like he was having a great time.
You know what?
As he should be, I guess. Why
That
not?
would be in a candid moment. Maybe a question for Chief or whatever. Do you remember Alex Nylander's name was on the score sheet?
Yes.
Game 6, Ottawa.
And that could have been a really.
William had 3 points that night. Right?
Can you imagine if his brother had to play and he couldn't that night because of a technical error? Like that one, I would like to. That's a 30 for 30.
Possibly. I mean, he ended up playing and they won the game. But if he didn't play and they lost and then went to a game 7, then that is a completely different story altogether.
Crazy. Yeah.
All right. Do you have a couple of questions? Noodles can play the role play of Brad Treliving.
I was struggling with the phrasing.
Okay.
But
okay, what do you got?
One of the questions I was going to ask, and again, I didn't know how to phrase it exactly, is how much change is enough? Because it's kind of what you and I are talking about, and I think we're on the same page. We're agreeing.
Always.
Like Marner leaving is one thing. Is that enough? Like how much change does this team actually need?
I don't think he would give you a definitive answer, but
I don't either.
But it would be fair to say you can't keep doing the same thing. So change could be significant.
Yes. And I actually thought that, to me, that was the most interesting thing he said the whole press conferences. And he said it a couple times. He said, we can't be so rigid in what we're doing.
Right.
And to me, my mind went to Shanahan.
Right.
Because like that was kind of what they were, is they were rigid.
Yeah, he's bullish on those guys. Yeah. So I would say to your good question is,
okay,
I don't know. But we are going to try a different way because what we've been doing has gotten the ceiling we've hit is the second round.
Yes.
That's
so not that
you roll the dice, but you other organizations roll the dice all the time. Bill Zito was like, Huberdeau, you got to go. Like you look at other organizations that try to get to the next level. The Edmonton Oilers, a lot of people gave them heck.
A lot of turnover last offseason, man.
And not a lot of positive news on it,
in large part because of the way the guys played. Like Holloway left, Broberg was really good.
Well, the guys they brought
Jeff
in,
Skinner, they're like, we can't even play this guy.
Skinner's been a healthy scout, but Arvidsson in and out, like it wasn't unwarranted.
Mm-hmm.
But Edmonton's like, this is what if everybody's healthy and playing well, this is what we envision our group to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big swing sometimes because you're right. I guarantee you in February, Jeff Jackson, Stan Bowman are probably sitting there with this Holloway's got 26 goals and going, well, for $2.8 million, what are we doing here? But in the end, coming back to your question, we will know. Like you don't know until you know. And change, it could be for the better because we know what the ceiling is for this group. And that's the way I would phrase it.
Yeah, and ultimately that's really what it comes down to. You've got to freshen something up. I also think it will benefit the other guys, and predominantly the best players. And we're talking Matthews and Nylander and Riley, because there's an element of like staleness to them 100%. In the market too, right? It's just been 9 years of the same, and core for this and core for that. Where if there is a tangible change, where let's say Marner goes and maybe Tavares goes, and there's just a different group in there. Yes, Matthews is going to be on the marquee every night.
Yeah.
And he's worthy of that. He's their captain, their best player, highest paid guy. He's been the franchise really since they won the lottery. And Willie's a great player that continues to put up great numbers. Those guys are always, if you're a superstar, you're at the forefront. Right. You can't escape that. But will almost, in a way, I think, freshen their storyline up a little bit in this city.
Well,
if you take Marner and Tavares off, because the four of them have collectively just played together also for 7 years.
Yeah.
In different combinations, but they're always together.
But they've got to take, to be honest, if you come back to one word, they take ownership of it now. It's not 4, it might be 2.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, you were paying these 2 guys. Now, again,
you are staying, you got to put up or shut up now.
Austin's been handed the sea. You know, it's his, this is his team.
Mm-hmm.
He's to take ownership of it. And so I think you're right. Like if Mitch and or John, I'm not convinced it's both of them. I do believe that.
See, that's kind of what I'm getting at with that question is I think the Tavares decision, if I were running the team, is really hard. I don't know what I'd do. Because, like, at some point, like, you got to change. Like,
yes,
he's a good player.
Yeah.
But do you need to change? And forget about, like, age and position and, like, all and playoffs.
Right.
I don't know. Like, how much change do you need?
I would be fine with, again, easier said than done. I don't know the number of term. Really, it's the number. The term might be a moot point based on, you know, their ability to flex their financial. You know.
But let me ask you, because I know where you stand on this. Say he came to you and he said, like, whatever you wanted me to sign, I'll sign. Aside from, like, something silly. Like, he's not signing this Spezza deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you do it? Or would you just be like, you know what? You're a great player. You've been a great player here. We got to change.
Is it tied to the Marner decision, though?
No. It's just we know. Let's say we assume he's leaving.
Okay.
And you know that.
I think I would move off both guys. Like, I would just be in a position where it takes a lot of courage. There's a lot of unknown out there. You know, like John comes with stability. John's going to play. John's a really good player. He's going to score a lot of goals. And during the regular season, he's a professional that when you play on a sleepy Tuesday against a team and the other guys aren't playing, he may show up and be like, you know what, I'm getting 2 and we're winning tonight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of value in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go with the extreme, like the nuclear version of change in terms of the core 4. Like I would move off both. This is your opportunity. It's ripping the Band-Aid off. It's not uncomfortable. It's not asking someone to waive something.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, it's fresh. It's here. And I think, again, what needs to be remembered is, like, they have given these players ample opportunities. They've been here a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, through the time frame and the lens of sports, 9 years for Marner and 7 for Tavares is a long, long time.
It is.
And they've turned over everybody else in the organization. The GMs have changed. The coaches have changed. Literally every other player on the team. Literally.
Yeah.
Every other player
Except
has
Riley.
flipped, and in many ways multiple times, except for Riley. There's the 5 guys.
Right.
Every other player has come and gone and flipped, and they've tried different variations. And, you know, it's worked in some ways, and yet it hasn't worked in the ultimate way. So I would take that voyage. I would just look at it and say, I still have Matthews, I still have Nylander, I still have Nyes. I've got a defense that I actually think he opened the door to continuing to change with his comments today. And I got my 2 goalies, and I got Berube behind the bench.
Well,
Let's see what's out there via trade, via signing. Maybe Easton Cowan's a part of the program next year, and let's freshen this up and try to go a different direction.
I understand what you're saying. I might be even more creative with this. If he decides that he wants to stay, and you say, okay, it's Max Domi's contract. What does Max make?
375, yeah.
In a couple of years.
That's a 4-year deal.
Out, so he's got 3 left. But you put him in that spot, and then you find a spot for Max Domi.
Like you move off Max Domi.
Move off because what it does is it plays like I'm just looking again. You make a great point because we've got 9 years of data, but I'm looking at what you just said. You got to make the playoffs, and you want to place as high as you can in the standings. And on a sleepy Tuesday, John Tavares might give that to you. So we're talking about depth. You move him from the top 6 down to the bottom 6. Tavares, what I'm talking about,
Yep.
That's a hell of a player on a value contract that, again, there's baggage because of what's gone on. And that's where you're pointing it.
Yeah.
But that's an upgrade in that hole if you can, again, find a landing spot for an up. You know, I would view Tavares as an upgrade on Domi because you're sliding him into
sure.
but
you also have to, like,
hole.
project. what he is before is not what you're looking at. You're trying
100%.
to say like 35, 36, 37. Like, what is he?
But if we were just doing this,
He's
if you're looking at
100%. Yeah.
If you're looking at a 2-year window, regardless of the contract length, player A or player B, Tavares or let's say Domi,
Oh, yeah.
who are you taking?
Okay, let me throw this out. Player C, Jonathan Toews.
Well, I saw that, and the 37.
Yeah. But he's going to return. He said 100% committed to playing again in the league.
I mean, you got to look at it, but I still think you need a number 2.
Yeah.
You're saying Tavares won't be the number 2, though.
No.
Like in your scenario, he's in the bottom 6.
And Toews wouldn't be either.
No, of course not.
So
He's not
my
a
point
second-line center.
you can have a combination of Toews on your team, but you're still going after
I don't
player
know
X,
who that person is.
Braden Shan or somebody. It's a trade because it's not out in free agency. I don't think it is, unless Matt Duchene is going.
Duchene, yeah. I mean, Sam Bennett, people keep. Obviously, he's a guy that could be available.
You're right. But again, Sam Bennett, there would probably be nights where you go, if Tavares stayed, I'll play Tavares ahead of Bennett in certain scenarios.
That's what'll happen.
For sure, in the
Right,
regular
for sure.
season.
But
for sure.
when push comes to shove, I wasn't even going down the Bennett road. I was looking.
I'm just
at
saying,
other
he
players,
could be a free agent, could be available.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
But we're playing the woulda, coulda, shoulda game.
No,
But I understand what you're saying. When it comes back to the word DNA, change is ripping the Band-Aid off, and you have the ability to do it right now without asking people to wait.
not uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah, and then they're like this.
It just is. It is a little uncomfortable, isn't it? Like you have the guy basically saying, "I will stay. I want to stay."
Yeah, but you
And then
could
you're
also
like-
challenge that, right? You could really? Okay, do you want to stay? You can't have this special deal and you can stay. Do you think he wants to stay at that? So of course, like I want to
Fair.
stay, but I don't. I
for the
still
right
got to make a
money.
lot of money. Yeah, like let's.
Yeah.
You got to be honest about it. Wants to stay as long as he gets paid a certain amount of money, which he's entitled to. He's a free agent. He's a pro. He's a really good player. But yeah, interesting that Jonathan Toews, be on the market. I don't know what he'll be looking for. I would think that's got to be a 1-year. I would think,
Minimum.
Like a 1-year deal,
Yeah.
pay him a little bit of money and say, we'll bring you in. I don't know if you can commit long term to a guy who hasn't played in a few years.
It's a 1-year deal, and by all accounts, like I would probably give the leg up to Winnipeg, wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah, he's a Manitoba guy.
Local, all of that. Has a relationship with them. Like,
That'd be a great story. Like if he's signed in Winnipeg,
yeah.
probably on the 4th line, you're going to have Scheifele, you're going to have Lowry. They need a second-line center out there, but that's not him, I don't think.
No, but I mean, maybe you push him to the wing. Like, winger is a less responsible.
Yeah, Ehlers
I mean,
if he moves.
Yeah, you've missed time. The biggest thing you can hide a winger. Centerman, it's a little bit tougher to hide because of their responsibility defensively.
Mm-hmm.
So you go, Toews, like, yes, you're going to take big draws, but we want you on left wing on the 3rd line. But Niederreiter's there. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Move around.
You can
Maybe
find
start as
you can
fourth
find
line
a way to
and
make it work with him.
But
I'm sure you can.
I think it's interesting, and it's a good storyline. And of course, he'll be linked to the Leafs because everybody's always linked to the Leafs.
Everyone is.
So
as they should.
And
be.
you know what? You talk about winning in character and DNA. That's some pretty quality DNA.
It's been disproven.
Yeah.
Derek Jeter.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Derek
Why would
Jeter's
He
a
no,
pathetic
like he
loser.
has it for sure. Like if anybody in hockey has it, but I just don't know this idea that it translates. I just am not sure I buy into that. Totally.
I get what you're saying, but I also, I'll be honest, when I played for the St. Louis Blues, I was a better player because of the players around me.
That's what I mean.
Chris Pronger,
Yeah.
Al McInnes, Brett Hull.
Remember
Bergeron.
Toronto signed Francois Beauchemin? It's like he won a cup in Anaheim. It's like, cool. Like this is in Anaheim. He doesn't have Chris Pronger and Scott Niedermayer.
Right.
Like, it's not the same.
But it is, my point is if you build a good team and this guy who's been there before helps, settle things down too. Like the key is those players that have won have to contribute. They can't be sitting on the bench yelling at them going, you got to do this, you got to do we say it all the time. You have leadership qualities when you're the guy in the fight. I remember Craig Conroy telling me this, he was a great leader in our dressing room, but he was 4th line by the end of his career. He's like, how am I going to stand up in the dressing room and yell at a top player and go, you need to do this, when he goes, I'm basically sitting in a ball cap. That's the hardest thing. You have to be, leadership comes in different avenues as well. Like Anthony Stolarz could be a great leader. Sounds like he is. Like guys love him. And, he's
And he wasn't playing, right? And listen, Bennett almost got Freddie Anderson last night. Like, that was a greasy chicken wing flying elbow. That,
Freddie didn't like it. Freddie tried,
and I liked that Freddie didn't like
off.
it. Like, so that's he's playing with fire with the goalies because, like, we saw it in the first round. Who was it that Stolarz was going at? Who was it?
Ridley
on
Gregg.
Ottawa? Ridley Gregg.
Yeah.
And the refs, I think, allowed him to because they said, I didn't like how he flew into you in the previous game. I didn't like how he was in your crease.
They gave him a freebie.
Yeah, I think refs are going to look at Sam Bennett and say, listen, I'm not going to – if a goalie pops you, that's your problem, man.
Yeah.
I'm not saving you because if you keep playing with that fire, someone is going to lay him out. And, like, it's one thing to throw big hits. It's one thing to stick your knee – you know, there's different things. That – to me last night, that was a greasy play. And the fact that Carolina didn't really do anything, again, after we heard early in the round, Kachuk saying, well, we went after Aho, and that's the team we are. It's like they could have done something. They did nothing to them.
It's not really in there.
It's not the way they're wired. And,
Not in their
and it's not the way the Leafs are wired. Exactly.
But that, it's a great point. The word DNA comes with a lot of different connotations, right?
Possibly.
The way that it meanings.
Possibly. All right, James Duthie coming up in studio. Into the next hour, Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Stars looking to survive tonight. The Knicks looking to survive. Blue Jays with a big win last night. Bo Bichette with a pinch hit home run, 2-run home run in the ninth. I was flipping back and forth last night. That game was so awful. It was 0-0 again into the ninth, and Bichette was dealing. He was a little bit banged up. He didn't start. I wasn't sure he was available to even pinch hit. Kirk wasn't starting either, so Kirk comes in to pinch hit before Bichette, and Bo, like, he's barely pinch hit throughout his whole career because he starts all the time. He'd never had. I don't think he'd ever had a pinch hit.
Really?
And he hit a bomb last night. They ended up winning 2-0. But the offense on both sides, just awful with both teams. Yeah, the Jays got 2 of 3, and they move on. Yeah. And they're back in action tonight. So we got hockey tonight. We got baseball tonight. We got basketball tonight. Matthias Ekholm returning to the lineup. That's big for Edmonton, man. He's right in there with Bouchard, top pairing.
Yeah, I thought they'd go 11-7 and kind of bleed him back into the lineup, but every defenseman I've been talking to, Struddy and Rhett Warner and the guys that they hate that. Struddy's
you
like,
want to
it's
play.
like, he goes, you go out to, what did he say on Jay's show? It's like you go out for dinner with 3 couples and then another guy. And he goes, why is that other person there? He goes, you're just a floater.
Exactly.
It was actually a good analogy.
Yeah,
but
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You know, because you're like, oh, is he taking my shift?
Yeah, like what's going on here?
The 7th guy, you're like, just go sit down there. Leave us alone, please.
So, yeah, Jeff Skinner again. So.
Jeff Skinner's back in there, man, while they're dealing with big injuries.
Yep.
So more on that into the next hour. Duthie will join us in studio. We got Cheryl Pounder coming up in studio later this afternoon. Pierre LeBrun on the Treliving, presser today, and what could happen moving forward on that front as well. Hour 2 up next. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on YouTube Live.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, Jonas Siegel, and look who we have here. James Duthie himself in studio. What's happening, JD?
Not much. Looking forward to the game. Looking forward to sitting next to Brian Hayes tomorrow as he perhaps wins his first Canadian Emmy Award, is what we like to call it.
Yeah, that's right. The Screen Awards are tomorrow. Duthie's my competition.
I know, but like, would you like turn and shake his hand, or would you do like the big time, like, eat it?
It's not on TV. I always wanted to do when they used to put this award on
like
TV.
at the Oscars, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now they run the sports awards at like noon.
Yeah, they're like, get these guys out of here.
And the funny thing is, a couple of years ago, they had it in this big hall where they have the main awards, but there's only about 80 of us at the sports awards, so we're all in the first 3 rows, right? But they used to put the sports award in the big show that was on CBC or CTV or whatever every year. And I think it was only because, Ron McLean's a big deal, or Brian Williams, they were usually winning, and they were probably as big as celebrities as you get in Canada.
Yeah, of course.
So they put those on there. But they'd put you in the boxes,
Oh, really?
And the nominees for Best Toe Star, Little Jimmy Duthie for SportsCenter, Ron McLean for Hockey Night in Canada.
And I always wanted to just, when I lost, because I would always, those early years especially, I'd always lose to, like, Ron McLean. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to just, like, give the finger or just get up and leave, that moment when they announce it's not you, instead of doing the polite applause.
Oh, man.
Did you have a losing face?
I didn't have a losing face, no. I would just... No, I had the fake. I was very much the fake clapper.
You have to be cordial, right? Yeah. You have to pretend like you're really happy.
Somebody did. I think it was Regis Philbin, actually, on the Emmys, did that. Actually, got all mad when he lost.
Did
for
the Kanye?
seconds,
Did the Kanye and went up?
That's storm it up, right? Doing the Kanye. No one wants to do the Kanye anymore.
Because it does. I'll warn you. As much as it's the Canadian Screen Awards nobody cares about, but it's still kind of especially early in your career, it still sucks to lose a little bit.
I was shocked I got nominated. Someone from the company sent me a text and said, "Hey, congratulations." I thought they were punking me. I wrote back, "LOL, that's funny." I did not think it was true. And then I looked into it. I'm like, wow, this is actually serious. Do you have to give a speech if you win?
Yeah, I think
you actually go up there.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Are you going to write something?
I have nothing planned.
You should.
Don't write something.
I will not be writing it. There is no chance I'm going to win this thing. It'll be Duthie. There's Ron McLean. Andy's up there.
The Olympics always wins.
Up
and
there.
I benefited from that because I won. When you do the Olympics, you usually win.
Yes.
So
how does OverDrive ring out in the voting capacity?
No, but literally, what if they showed a clip and it's talking about the wall squat and
that's what's going to happen. And the nominee is, and it's going to be the 3 of us talking about
yelling and screaming about something.
So quickly, quick stories. The first time Dregs got nominated, they put him in the balcony. So you pretty much, if you're in the, most of the nominees are in the first 3 rows or whatever. Yeah. And so I think Drake said to the usher or whatever, "If I win, how do I get down there?" And the usher was like, "You don't have to worry about that."
There's no chance.
And so there was a year, Landsberg and I were nominated, and it was Ron McLean and I think Scott Oak and somebody else. And so we get into the theater, it was at the CBC building, and those guys, I look down and they're in the front row. And Landsberg and I they made these bleachers at the back.
Yeah.
And there was a standing room only crowd in the middle. So I look at Landsberg and I said, "We got no shot." So I just started doing cocktails at the party.
Yeah, of course.
And then they announced the winner and I won.
You're kidding me.
And my first thought was, how am I going to sober up to make a speech? And the second thought was, how am I going to get to the stage? So it took me 3 minutes to I have to walk down these bleachers, and then there's a standing room only crowd.
Right.
And I'm pushing people. And they don't care
who's
who
this
I am.
guy?
Yeah, they're I'm like, sorry, I got to get through here. I got to get to the stage. So it's
Poor planning.
Well, I'm gonna know. That's. I'm concerned about where I'm sitting. I still don't know exactly where I'm sitting.
I think you should have a little tight little 45-second speech.
Okay, I'll
ready.
have some
And
plan.
it better be tear-jerker.
Does it have to be?
I want it to be tear-jerker.
I'll do my best. I mean, I am not anticipating winning.
Yeah, but you don't want to be
anyone
that person who gets up there and is like, I didn't plan anything. I didn't
Okay, I'll plan something.
Nobody believes that anyway.
I know that's the truth.
You know?
That happened to me. I think I told you guys when I won the Masterton. I didn't plan a speech. I was so drunk the night before at the Madison.
The Maddie, the Maddie
I don't
will do
remember
it to
waking up. And then Pronger was calling me and going, we got to head over. I thought it was at 7 o'clock at night, and the awards were like at 4 or something. And I was like out to lunch at 2:30 still. And he goes, did you write a speech? I'm like, no, do I need to?
Were
He
you
goes,
hungover?
oh, I was
So proud to accept the Madison Award.
The Maddie.
I mean,
Love
I
the
was-
Maddie and
and the
Masterton.
Masty.
poisoned the night
Yeah.
before.
Oh,
Poisoned.
that you wouldn't be alone in that place, man. I got some stories for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
No, it'll be fun though. It's going to be good to get down there and check it out. I've never been there before.
Be fun.
Bringing the whole crew.
You'll be underwhelmed.
That's what I'm anticipating.
Like if you win,
But
and
it'll
there's
be
just
fun.
literally like a
Yeah. Because like, how
I
did this guy get in
will
here?
cheer for you. I legitimately, I've told you this. I'm on Team Hayes.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, whoever wins, I'll just say I finished second.
oh yeah,
It doesn't matter. Like,
Runner
no,
up.
Actually,
Runner
I was told. Someone told me I was second.
runner up,
It was
runner up.
funny.
Yeah, I'll just tell
You came
everyone.
2 points short.
I was
because
right behind.
some writer in Winnipeg didn't have you on his ballot.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. Someone excluded me from the ballot. Do you think the Oilers get it done tonight? Where's your head at?
I don't know about tonight. I think Dallas probably has deserved better somewhere along the way in the series. And I mean, I'm terrible at predicting these things. Maybe they feel defeated at 3-1. I heard they're 0-16 when down 3-1, and Edmonton's 17-1. Which all that means nothing, except it does, because it just shows you the historical odds that you're facing. But I think Dallas probably has kind of like a Carolina Game 4 type effort, where we're too good a team to go out this way. Now, whether McDavid and Draisaitl and Nuge decide, forget it, we want to get it over with, I'm not sure.
I could see Dallas getting some puck luck too. You know, they've generated.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about it last show. Like they had 22 high danger chances, so they've had some looks. And if Skinner has an off night,
Isn't he? I hate to say this, but isn't he kind of due for one?
yeah, I would think so.
You know, and that's not a shot at him. He's been unbelievable, but he does have a tendency to have one of those every few.
Like O said yesterday, like even if he has an off night, they give up 5. Like maybe those two and the supporting cast, which is Kane and guys like that, maybe they get 6. Like it's just they get a lot of. Is it going to come down to Ottinger and Skinner?
Well, and look at last night, right, where Carolina's up 2-0, and you're thinking they're not going to go down.
That looked
and
like
they're-
Carolina. Like that, I was like, oh, Carolina's playing really well.
Yeah.
I thought they played
And
really
then
well.
all of a sudden, bad penalty,
Wheels fall.
2-2, and then all of a sudden you're chasing it, and even they end up tying the game, and Verhaeghe and Barkov make that incredible play. Barkov is so good. He was so good last night. He's always just so good.
Right.
And you know, I think he, in a way, even though he's the captain of that team, like it's Tkachuk that comes up first. We talk about Bennett all the time. Bob's going to come up a lot. The head coach, like Maurice, is in the middle of everything.
What did you make of the handshake?
I think I just feel like he is.
Quote machine.
He's going too far. I've said that for a while now. I think it's now you're policing what other, you know, he's telling Rod, I don't think we should. Well, who are you to determine what everyone
And
does
he's just
in the league?
decided this in the last, like, apparently he did it in
I believe
they
he
do
did
it
it
for
against
Toronto?
Tampa.
series in the first round.
And the Cup final last
Right.
year. He couldn't wait to get in there and shake hands with McDavid. So
look,
why all of a sudden is
well,
it-
first of all, I thought it was eloquent what he said. I think he's actually right, and I think he's well-intentioned by it. But I agree with you that you have no, like, it's not up to you to tell Rod Brindamore what to do. If he wants
Right.
to go and shake, you know, Barkov's and whatever hand, like, you're right. I think
Well,
most
and he was
great,
a player, Brindamore, too. Like, he was actually a guy that I think would have.
he hoisted the cup.
Yes, for that team.
In his speech, though, or no, in Maurice's media availability, he said he talked to Chief about it. Like I'm thinking in my mind, did they shake hands with the Leafs? Because he said
I don't
Craig
remember.
Berube was fine with it last series. So you'd almost have to go back in the tape and go, did the coaches go and shake Matthews and Marner's hand and all of that.
I don't remember. It was such a weird ending. The last Game 7, it was 6-1 and no one was there, and it was awkward and strange.
Almost like both teams just exited the building.
Yeah,
he played. Brind'Amour played. I understood what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need, the third PR guy in a tracksuit because they're going to be on the ice for the pictures and that, shaking hands with the other team that they're pissed that they lost. I get that, but again, it's not really up to Paul. I mean, it's up to them if they. I would have told them, all of those floaters, stay off the ice until we shake hands, and then we'll bring you out.
It's just a weird thing to say, guys. So I don't want people to blow this out of proportion.
No.
But I think you're right. This is a little bit of a misstep. And you also miss moments like when Pete DeBoer was mic'd up in the last series against Winnipeg. Did you see that clip of Pete DeBoer going through the line? That was a cool moment. So if a coach wants to talk to those players, I think.
In the end, what did he do, though? Did Brind'Amour go through the line?
No, I don't believe he did.
I think he didn't. Yeah.
I don't believe he did. But it also, there's a part of me, the cynic in me is like, he's up 3-1 in the series. He's thinking about the handshake line. He's like, we're going to beat these guys tonight. How am I going to, I got to figure out a way to, and if I'm Brind'Amour, I'm like, have you been planning this little speech?
Exactly.
Like, you weren't actually, your head wasn't in the game?
He's like Brian Hayes preparing to host OverDrive.
Yeah, exactly.
What should I
Yeah,
talk
it's like,
about
where am I
today?
going with Rod? How do I break the news? I'm like, dude, the game's still on. We pulled our goalie here. And that's how confident he is in his team. But, yeah, I hope, I kind of hope that the Oilers just win tonight so it starts on Wednesday next week.
Well, I think we all in unison, probably as a nation, want this thing over with. We love hockey, but June 21st or whatever the Game 7 is going to be is ludicrous.
Yeah.
And, LeBron has been on this forever, and I have his back on all of it, and it's just never going to change because of American TV. But I see my buddies who are diehard hockey fans just tuning out.
Yeah, you get to this part of the year, especially up here, because the weather and people are getting outside, you get distracted. You get into different things.
Yeah.
Blue Jays are playing. There's different stuff going on. The Canadian Football League they're up and running here. Like it's almost go time for them. So there's just different things going on. And then once your team is out, it's difficult to follow everything. It's still a regional sport.
The Oilers,
in many ways.
a Canadian team will keep everybody
Very
in it,
much
but
so.
whether they're in it or not, I mean, imagine if this was, let's say Dallas comes back and it's Dallas, Florida, and we're sitting here on June 21st for a Game 7 or June. I think the latest
21st.
possible is the 24th, is it not?
No,
Right.
it's the 21st, I
21st
thought.
now?
It's a Saturday.
When the playoffs started, I think the latest possible date was the 24th. That's insanity.
Right.
Insanity.
Exactly. And think about those markets. Like it's 45 degrees in both places, and it's just but to your point, it's not going to change because this is the way it's going, and it's never going to go backwards. And yesterday we were discussing, like, it does feel like we've kind of buried the Stars before they've actually lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we've just moved past them. Yet I'm willing to do that again here with this conversation because we were talking about the Oilers. And if the idea of redemption would mean something to them, like if it's more inspiring, the idea that they get Florida again. But what about the other side of that? Because I'm sure you guys saw and heard Matthew Tkachuk last night. Maybe he was speaking of it today, where he's like, we're all business, not our first rodeo. Is there an advantage on the Florida side of things that they already have the ring and that they're so freed up from that like that?
You just relax and play?
Yeah, in a weird way. It's like Edmonton is so, they're dogged right now, and I think they're prepared, and I think it's going to be a great series, and I would not be surprised at all if they beat them. But in the back of their minds, at some point they got to think, if this happens again, man, I don't know how we get up off the mat.
That's all I kept thinking about watching them win the other night was I kept thinking about the scene in the dressing room and McDavid breaking down and just, it happens every year when you lose in the Stanley Cup final, but for those guys and to go 7 and lose by a goal. And I kept thinking, if this happens again to the same team, how do you recover from that? Because it's really
It's a possibility, though, too. Like, it's a really good possibility it could happen.
Florida be favored, probably, right?
Yeah, I think they're a slight favorite.
Over
like
Edmonton.
hypothetical right now. It's very slight.
And Edmonton has home ice. That's the only difference.
But Hayes, the
Florida
flip
has
side of the way you're looking at it, and it depends on the teams involved, is that Florida has the ring, and the 5% maybe more desire by the other team wins you a few more battles, right? And even though it's subconscious, it's not. Look, Florida still wants to win the cup; they're that close, but maybe there's that 1 or 2% that the other team's hungrier. So does that translate to an edge, or is it the way you say it, where the other team's a little bit looser? You never know till you see it.
Yeah,
I'll give you one comment. What did Austin Matthews say? He's like, Florida. Didn't he say, he's like, right in his press conference right at the end of the year, where he's like, they wanted it more. Like
he did say that.
Said that about the Florida Panthers, just to the point, the team that won last year, the team that should have been tired going to 2 finals in a row.
But once you've found it, you're like, I got to have more.
So I could see on the other side of that coin, Florida going, hey, we're going to double down here, and we're going to do whatever we can to win it again.
Well, it leads me to what we were going to workshop throughout the afternoon, and I think we should do it now with you in here, JD. So here, in no particular order, this is how I would rank, or these are the teams I would include in terms of, since the salary cap was implemented. Cup-winning teams over a certain amount of time. These are my five best. I don't think there's going to be much argument with this. You feel free to.
Sure.
No particular order. Pittsburgh Penguins. I would say more the second window. I think somehow they were even better than the first window, where they went to 2 but only won 1. But when they won the back-to-back in 16-17, I think it was.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Chicago, 3 cups in 5 years, I think, or 3 and 6.
3 and 6, yeah.
The LA Kings.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay Lightning.
And
Florida Panthers. Like, those for me are the 5.
Sorry, this generation.
Yes, of the last 20 years, since the salary cap was implemented. Those are the 5.
There's no argument there.
Do you think Florida, if they win, like, how high on that list can Florida get in the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Wait, the 9 straight playoff appearances by the Leafs might edge them into the top 5.
Number 6. I had to cut it off somewhere. I would have just continued forever and ever.
So how high on that list?
I guess let me throw these. We'll round table it here.
Okay.
Who do you think? Which is a better team in your opinion? And I understand it's difficult because recency bias. We're living it right now. Florida or Tampa?
Tampa.
You like the
They
Tampa
went to
team?
3 straight finals and
Yes,
won
they
2.
did. Yeah.
And they went to the final in 15.
Florida's
as well.
Florida's in their 3rd straight Cup final.
I know. They'll be able to win 2. Yeah.
Yes, just like Tampa.
But they have not yet won.
Okay, so you're on Tampa.
Yeah.
And they went in 15.
All right. Sorry,
They didn't win in 15.
You just said Florida or
Went.
Tampa. We're not ranking
Yes.
them right. Okay.
No, I'm going to use Florida as the barometer, and then we'll get into these
So
other
Florida or Tampa?
Florida or Tampa? Who
I
do you
do
think's
say
been better?
Tampa right now, but again, talk to me in 2.5 weeks.
I don't know how you can say. I think if Florida wins the cup, then they're probably.
All right, let's presume they do that.
Then it's 1 and 1A.
Okay.
Why would you say?
Here's my
better?
only thing on Tampa is that the COVID years to me throw stuff off.
But that's not fair. It's
2
not their.
cups in
It's not
10
their
months.
fault.
I know, but it's like we're playing in a bubble, and then the next year it wasn't a full schedule, and it wasn't.
Blake Coleman told me. He's carrying around the cup in the rink in Edmonton, and he says all he's looking at is tarps.
Yeah, there's nothing in there.
And then he said the coolest thing was they went into the room after, and there's nobody there. Their families aren't there. No one's there. He said, which was great because you never get that as a team.
Mm-hmm.
But he said after like an hour, they were kind of bored. And so they started doing like slippy slides through the shower, all a bunch of naked guys with the cup. and so that's apropos of nothing. But
then they had to go
that's what
outside
happens
for a
when you
COVID
win.
swab.
That's what happens when you win during COVID.
Yeah.
But I don't think I know what you're saying, Hayes. But that's not fair in a way to Tampa.
Yeah, I think.
Is it?
This is presumptuous.
It's a reality, though. It's not. Listen, we're talking about.
You're basically
teams.
saying they're tainted cups?
Well,
No, I do think there's an asterisk. Like, I think the Lakers championship in 2020 has an asterisk. I think it should.
So those ones have an asterisk.
They're different.
Didn't New Jersey win the cup coming out of the lockout in
94, 95.
95,
Yes,
yeah.
they did.
That was a shortened season?
No, it was 48 games, but then it was you had to win 16 in the spring. It was best 4 out of 7, all that kind of stuff. One of Chicago's cups was in a lockout.
Tampa
year.
won in 5 over Montreal, and who did they beat in the other one? Dallas.
Yeah, it was Dallas. Yeah.
In 5 or 6.
And
Yes.
Colorado, they lost.
I'll give you this: Florida's winning in 7.
It's close.
I still think Chicago trumps them all.
See, I would have Chicago at the top for me.
Chicago's
too.
number 1.
Chicago's
I'd
the number
almost
1.
say LA might be second.
The way LA did it was one of the most impressive too. Didn't they go 16 and 2 or
Yeah,
15
that was the year when they squeaked in.
Darryl took over halfway
They beat
through the
Vancouver in 5, and
then
then
it was
they,
just like
I think it was like sweep, and then they won the Cup against the Rangers, I think in 6 maybe.
Yeah.
I'll
But
give
it
you
was-
Florida over the edge over Tampa because of what you say. If they win this cup, just
Yep.
because if there's the tiebreaker, and plus Montreal in the final in that 1 year for Tampa wasn't the second best team in the league, and you're beating a McDavid and Draisaitl twice in a row. So I'll give you that if they win.
Exactly. Like they beat Montreal, who's in their division in the Cup final, which was
I think you're disrespecting Pittsburgh.
okay. You'll go ahead and make your
Cups?
case. Yeah,
3
no.
cups?
The
And getting there,
that
getting there twice, like in 2
well, they
separate
were there, and they were there
chunks?
4 times because they
Right.
lost their first time. Like now that is more extended because it's almost feels like 2 different eras.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah, that's the
Sid
part that throws me. If
But
you-
it's
Yeah.
the same core.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're all
anyway,
encompassing-
there you
if
go.
you're all
What was the difference?
encompassing.
How many years between?
It's like
cups?
08, 09, and then 16, 17. They were
Almost
like
a decade.
seven years, man.
And they
but the
7
same
years.
core 4.
They kept
Yeah.
the
Was it
same
the same core 4?
wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Well, the core
Letang,
3
Crosby.
anyway.
Well,
and
Fleury,
Lauer.
Letang, Crosby, and Malkin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you're
probably have to go Chicago, Pittsburgh, and then you can make your debate where LA falls there and the other 2.
Yeah, that's probably reasonable. That's why I was workshopping it. I needed help with this. But yeah, I would go Chicago definitively 1. I think Pitt 2, even out of respect to Sid being a part of that. Like it's almost like that's the trump card. That's the separator that Sidney Crosby.
Look how good McDavid is, and like he's still trying to get 1.
Yeah, he's not even in the top 5. And even if he wins, they won't pass any of those teams.
Yeah, it is crazy, but that's the parity of the league.
Does Edmonton get 6th, besides my Toronto joke, because of going to 2 straight finals, even if they lose this one?
Maybe Boston though. I think Boston should be in
yeah.
consideration.
When was the last time we had 2 teams playing the finals back-to-back years?
It was
Detroit, Pittsburgh. 08, 09.
08, 09.
Yeah, the
yeah.
Hossa Bowl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then prior to that, it was the Islanders and the Oilers back in the early 80s.
So somebody said this to me today. The Oilers might have been an even bigger dynasty. The Steve Smith goal. Remember, that was Calgary's.
Yeah.
Like that was.
Right.
There's people that I have friends who are still scarred by that.
I
Like
love
they
that.
remember where
That's
they
so
were. Like that
sickening
was like.
oh, Steve Smith jammed us. It's like, dude, you've won so many cups.
I know, but do you remember
Shut
that?
up.
6
Like
cups
my
instead of
buddies
5.
literally go, I remember where I was when that puck went in, when that hit Fierzy's leg and went
Yeah.
in. I'm like, yeah, I think I was in my basement watching it, but like I don't care. These people are traumatized
I
by that
understand that,
goal
but that-
alone.
Like your Matt Fratton moment for you, Hayes.
Yeah. They don't know trauma.
Breakaway, the Matt Fratton
They
breakaway.
don't know trauma. They don't understand trauma. They don't know pain. All right, so the NHLPA in Golf Canada have been up at TPC Toronto, Osprey Valley today.
Is there's a scoreboard and everything, or is this what you're about to
So,
reveal for us?
I don't know what is happening here. Doogie is just, what are we about to witness here, Doogie?
Yeah.
Although Duthie doesn't have any headphones in here, so I'm not sure exactly how to
It's
do
okay.
this. But
You guys can just.
I think we can hammer our mics off, and you guys are going to play it. So I think this is Koliakovo. I'm assuming it's going to be very loud. O's going to be in the cart. You know he's going to be playing it very cool.
Yeah.
Something's going on based on how they played at Osprey Valley today. Let's hear this and let's see it.
PGA Tour, RBC Canadian Open. Let this guy play in the tournament next week.
Maybe a sponsor's exemption.
I just witnessed the round of my life and his life. Say hello to Mr. 64.
It wasn't enough though, Coco. These grounds, they're hollowed grounds, and I've been screwed twice on this course. The first time by James Duthie, and today by you.
Sorry.
So it was a good day, but
Great day.
2 of my colleagues have screwed me on this golf course. First Jimmy, and now you. Thanks for that. Thanks for ruining my 64.
This guy's unreal.
All right. So what's the backstory? How are you involved in
The
that?
Dubas thing.
We
Oh,
had
that's
that match years ago, me and O against Kyle Dubas and Jerry D. We were up by 5 strokes on the 11th hole. I was playing great, and I basically hit a hybrid sideways into the woods, and we made like a 9 or something and lost by a stroke. And he's never let me forget it. And we're actually having another match, which I think you might be a part of, against each other now at the end of June. But There's no chance. He's the best golfer I know.
Yes,
there's
he's
no
a
doubt about
phenomenal
that.
golfer, yes.
There is no shot that he shot 64 from like the Canadian Open tees on that golf course.
No.
There is no chance. This is going to be like that conversation that time he came in with you guys and said he shot 66 at Weston, and there was some controversy about him losing a ball and deciding to call it a par or something.
No, exactly. I'll
the
just take a free
greenskeeper
drop
ran
here.
over his
It's like,
ball, so I'll just take a par here.
Yeah.
There's going to be a documentary behind the scenes that's going to bring into question that 64.
Reed to him.
Well, and it's very liberal in tournaments like this. Go ahead and take that. And it's a
Coco's the
6-footer.
king of the 25-foot gimme, too.
Yeah.
So I
It's
mean,
like, that looks good to me, and you go
Coco
ahead and
was
take
fishing,
that.
probably. So
Yeah, he probably
not
was.
even paying attention.
Although it sounds like they were planning a team event, and Koliakova must have been just horrendous because if a guy shooting 64 doesn't get the job done, that's trouble.
maybe it was a two-man scramble 64 that we're talking
It
about.
could have been that.
And they only used a few of Coco's shots.
That is exactly what possibly happened. Anyway, all right. Well, I'm sure we'll hear all the details.
Yeah.
In all its glory. 64 for the O-Dog up at TPC.
Because, I mean, he hits the ball very straight, but that rough even from Media Day a couple of weeks ago, the rough is pretty sizable there. So I have some
doubts?
Yeah, I
think it's worthy of being skeptical anyway.
Now, the sponsor's exemption, though, would be, if they were smart, that would be, that it would kind of be the equivalent of letting Steph Curry into some events like they've done before.
Yeah, you're right. That would
maybe
be
that
a
was
good
the Korn
idea.
Ferry Tour, but having O in there, would O have maybe the third biggest gallery? Maybe, okay, take the Canadians out of it. Rory, maybe Connors or Pendrith, Oberg, and then O.
Yeah, I think
Osprey.
that's probably
top 5
true.
biggest gallery.
I think he would have a top 5
Let's
gallery.
workshop that.
He doesn't want
choke.
that.
He would choke everywhere. That's why he doesn't play the Pro-Am. He did it once for nine holes. He was slashing the ball everywhere. He was
Well, I mean, that's the unwritten story of that match with Dubas and Jerry D. There were a few O chunks in there that is not talked about because everybody talks about my miss.
Right.
Again, when they make the documentary, the truth will come out.
Maybe it was-
It's on YouTube.
I
You
look
can find
forward
it.
to it.
Wasn't
Find it on YouTube.
Wasn't in his DNA.
Maybe it wasn't in his DNA. Maybe they need a DNA change when it comes to the O-Dog and team golf. All right, JD. Good luck with the panel tonight, buddy.
Yeah, and you good luck tomorrow, buddy.
I'll see you down there.
I'll be down there. I'll do a fake clap for you when you win. it'll be,
And I'll do the same. I will make sure to do the same. I don't think either of us are going to win.
No, we're probably fine.
Neither of us are going to win anything. But there he is, James Duthie of the Canadian Screen Awards.
Love it.
There's a tag on the way out. All right. We got Cheryl coming up later this afternoon. Pierre will join us. We got a ball game. We got the NBA playing. We got the NHL playing tonight. Jonah sticking around. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Noodles off doing a little panel work. He'll join us again in the 6 p.m. hour. Pierre LeBrun coming up. Cheryl Pounder, we got Game 5, the Western Final. The Knicks. Do we think the Knicks are going to survive?
They're at home.
How do you feel about that, Jonas?
That series has been fun. Have you watched it?
It's been really like close games, yet I wish it was 2-2. Like
me too.
I don't
really
really
won first game.
Yes, well, they threw I don't even know if they threw it away. Indiana just started hitting every single shot, and then it got to overtime. You had another chance to close, and the Pacers just found a way to do it. I mean, full credit to them. They've done that multiple times this playoff run, but you're right. It should be 2-2 based on that. Because now I just feel like you look at Minnesota last night. It was just
tough.
It was embarrassing.
That was a little Game 7-y.
Yes, but I think the nature of young teams, especially in the NBA, is like you're going into their building, Game 5. You know the Thunder are coming to play, and they just never put up a fight. Like Oklahoma City had a 20-point lead like 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah,
it was never close.
Yeah, it was never close. Do you think we talk about Shai enough? So he won the MVP, and he's probably going to win the NBA title.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from here.
Yeah, possibly, probably not. But I don't like. What do you add to it?
I don't know.
Where do you take it? This
question.
is like because I contemplate this all the time. You know, what is the conversation? Are we having people on from Oklahoma City to talk about them that are up close and personal with them? Like we'd love to have them on the show. We've tried to have them on a million times. It's easier said than done. You know, he's bigger than life now, and it's so. I don't know. It's almost like, in a way, a movie star that's a Canadian. Do they get more play up here than anybody else? I don't know. Like, maybe you focus on it to an extent, but once they've left and once they're gone, like if he was a Raptor, it would be the biggest story going in the city. Yeah. I do think the team he plays for factors in a little bit up here. He's in the West, Oklahoma City.
Like if he was a Laker, do you think?
Yeah, I feel like if he was the man in LA, it would feel a little bit different. I don't even really have an answer as to why that is, other than the nature of the NBA is it's brand driven. And even I would say this. I thought the build up towards Andrew Wiggins' arrival to the NBA was adequately talked about, promoted, and people were going crazy. Like, where's he going to school? Okay, what's he doing at school? Where's he going to go in the draft? And he just never pulled his weight. Like, he never got there as that first overall pick. Even Anthony Bennett, who actually beat him to that was a disaster. But with Shai, I guess what I'm driving at is this wasn't expected.
No.
Like, we haven't been talking about this for a decade. He was like the
side part of that trade with Kawhi and Paul George.
It was more about the picks.
It was the picks, and they got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander,
Gallinari was in there, and Yeah, you're right. It was kind of to make some money move, and some bodies had to move around.
When do you guys do your version of the Lou Marsh?
Well, we do the Lou Brown Awards now.
So when is
We're
that?
actually going to do that, I think, in the next month.
So he has to get the Lou Brown.
Well, here's the thing, because I would think so too. MVP, I think Oklahoma City's going to win the NBA championship, and if they do, he's going to be Finals MVP. That would be my guess. That is a trifecta. I just don't know how you top that.
That's like, I think Curry was the last guy probably to do that.
Yeah, it would probably be him or LeBron, I would guess. I mean, you look that up, Doogie, the last guy to get a three-peat in that capacity. But that seems unbeatable.
Yeah.
Yet, with the nature of the Canadian, how people vote, although I'm not in the room, Shai won it a couple years ago already. So once you've already won it, I feel like
tired of you?
Not necessarily, but it's like, all right, he's already won it, and there is.
If he doesn't win it, that's a trap.
Well, here would be the only case I can make is for McDavid, because it's not an Olympic year.
Didn't win the MVP.
Okay, but
he's amazing.
Game winner, 4 nations, right? 4 nations, but still playing for your country. Like the reason Shai, I think, got it a couple years ago, he had a great season, but he was the leader that got that men's national team back to the Olympic Games, right? So it was like a
little more important than a 4 nations made up tournament. But yeah, okay.
Is it in this country?
I mean,
is it? I don't think it is.
That was a really big deal.
The 4 nations?
No, the basketball.
Was it? But you started this conversation out. Did we talk about Shai? Did we?
I just don't know.
Was it?
It's a good point. What do you talk about?
No, it was. I can tell you, based on my experience, them getting through FIBA in August, halfway around the world. I think it was in Thailand. Was big news. It was nowhere close to what the Four Nations was. In terms of buzz, in terms of how many people in the country were activated because of it, how many people were talking about it, how many people were watching it. It's not even close.
Okay. So Four Nations, okay, and so he wins a cup. Let's say he wins a cup.
Okay, let's say
he's the Conn Smythe.
That's
what Conn Smythe.
Yes.
Four Nations.
Four Nations,
cup.
Conn Smythe, and a cup.
Doesn't beat.
You don't think that beats?
Doesn't beat Finals
Shai?
MVP, and NBA championship. No, I'm sorry. It might here. It shouldn't. That's insane. When was it? That's never happened. Well, he's the
never happened for a Canadian,
right? He's like the greatest Canadian basketball player we've ever had.
But that's what I'm saying. And that's why I would think he would win it, because I get the impression it's always okay. It can't just be hockey all the time, which I get. It can't be. Mm-hmm. But then you go out of your way to be like, well, we've got to do this because, like, if McDavid wins a cup, something that has not happened for any player in this country in 30 years, no one's won it here.
Didn't have his usual unbelievable.
Not based on his standards. Still had a great year.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Game winner, Four Nations. Conn Smythe wins the Stanley Cup.
Game winner.
I still, yeah, but Jonas, I didn't think it was going to be much. It turned into a massively significant event.
I know. It still was a 4-team tournament.
Yeah, but you lived it. Was it not a big moment? I mean, there were millions and millions of people in the country that were.
Sure.
Activated, we're into it.
More people will be watching the finals in the world.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking. I actually don't know if the Four Nations final will not do. I guess it would be a bigger number probably for the Cup final. Certainly a Game 7, but I'm not sure it's substantial. And it's not based on ratings why someone's going to win or someone's not going to win.
Where do you think for him that ranks in career achievements?
I'm not sure where that would be.
Top 10?
Possibly. He hasn't won a cup, and he hasn't been able to play international hockey. That was the first time he could play best on best.
Yeah, fair.
Where do you think it would be?
I don't know. He's won Art Ross's. He won Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
He's won. Did he win a Rocket? Yeah, he had 6. No.
Yeah, he scored 60.
He didn't win
I don't know
year.
if he won it that year or not.
He won that year. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know.
All right, you're just saying it's Shai. You're just saying it's okay.
I'm not arguing against.
Okay, what if they lose in Game 7, or what if they win but he doesn't get Finals MVP? Like, where do you draw the line on Shai? Because your argument, and I'm not disputing it. I think it's a totally valid one. It's as heavy of an argument as anyone can make. MVP, Finals MVP, champion.
Yeah.
Like you just.
It's the equivalent of Conn Smythe Cup Hart.
Yes, there's nothing more he can do.
Yes.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So he would 100% be worthy of winning it, like 100%. But where does it stop? Or what do you take away that would say, okay, now the door's open for someone else?
They lose, I guess?
Well, and then he's not winning Finals MVP. Right. So if he gets regular season MVP, they lose to the Pacers in the final, is the door open for McDavid?
I still would vote Shai.
Why? How? If McDavid wins Conn Smythe and a cup?
I don't know. I just think there's something really impressive about his story. We've never had a Canadian basketball player like this.
Sure we have.
Who?
Steve Nash won 2 MVPs.
I think Shai's on a... Okay, yeah, all right. I think Shai's on a different...
How? Is he on a different level than a 2-time MVP
his team's
winner?
won 68.
That's significant. I think the Suns team, I think, won 61 or 62. Right. Listen, if he wins a championship
Shai's
as the
than
man,
Nash.
Canadian, we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Like Nash never dragged his team to an NBA final, as he never won an NBA championship. If Shai as the man on a team winning an NBA championship, especially in a market like that, where it's not like he was, this great player and then said, all right, I'm jumping on the Lakers bandwagon. I'm going to go play with LeBron, or I'm going to Miami and putting it. It's his.
Well, and he just
kind
of wormed his way up and kept getting better and better. It's how did this happen?
Right. And he's remarkable. He's an incredible player. He's arguably
his
the face of the
composure
league.
is he is the.
But I guess what I'm getting to is I feel like as Canadians, like a part of the vote would be, well, Americans love Shai. And he's the face of the NBA, so that's worth something. Why is that worth something to us as Canadians?
I guess because
why
it's
do
not
we care as much?
our league. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if there was a soccer player who is the best soccer player in the world, I think we should think of him or her the same way. No?
Yeah. Well, and Alphonso Davies has never been the best player in the world.
But he's in like the...
But he's a great player, and when they punched their ticket, I believe Davies won the Northern Star. Like, he won the award. I believe maybe he split it that year. I think he might have split it with somebody. I believe he did.
But it's like, remember with Raonic, where it's like, oh, he's in the Wimbledon final. Cool.
Yeah.
And then he just got like smoked. And then like he had a decent career, but he never broke through totally.
Well, and like Bianca Andreescu, who I believe won.
Yeah, she did.
And that was just in the nature of, okay, we have a Canadian that won a slam.
Yeah.
You know, Mike Weir in 03 when he won the Masters. It's like, all right, that's something we've never done before. So that it's almost like, and again, I'm not sitting here fighting for hockey, and hockey's got to get all it, but you can't look past the greatness of what the hockey player is doing.
I guess what I'm
we
saying
love
is,
the fact that a Canadian's doing something different in a different field.
I guess what I'm arguing is there are so many amazing Canadian hockey players. There are not so many amazing Canadian basketball players on that level.
And you're not propping Shai up like unnecessarily. This guy's literally the best player playing right now.
Jokic just had the best season of his career statistically and lost.
Yes. Now you can make an
lost to him
argument
in the playoffs.
and exactly in 7, which is incredible considering what this team's doing to these teams. Like the Thunder are just dismantling everyone else.
Unreal.
That's
and if they win the finals, he's winning the MVP.
I think he will. And if he does, I think he'll win the the Canadian Athlete of the Year. And I'm not going to sit here and argue against it. I'm not sure how you could. I'm just saying there would be, you know, without knowing other Canadian stories off the top of my head, you gave me time, I could find more. But it's not an Olympic year. There's no World Cup or anything like that. You know, McDavid, Conn Smythe, Stanley Cup, great season, great player, never won it before. Seems like a pretty compelling case, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what is truly unique is that you're going to have the 2 best players in these respective sports be Canadians. Like McDavid's indisputably that in the NHL, but Shai, you can make an argument it's Jokic, is it Giannis, is it, you know, somebody else? But he's right there. Like he could grab it, and he could grab it over the next 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. He has a great finals, and they win, and he wins finals MVP. That's Shai basically saying, what else do you want me to do? Which is very exciting.
There you go. We just had a good conversation about Shai.
Great, man. He's a blast to watch play.
Do you think he's like a big enough star yet, like in Canada? Like, do you think Canada is aware? Like, if you asked 100 people on the street, who is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, would enough of them know? Like, maybe the finals will be the thing that puts it over the top?
The thing is, my experience with, like, I've had these conversations. I used to have that chat about Joey Votto all the time.
Oh, great. Yeah.
All the time. Why isn't Votto a bigger name here, bigger story here? And I think the answer was he didn't want to be here.
Well, and he played in Cincinnati.
Well, and that's like this with Oklahoma City.
And
but
he never won.
Yeah. You know, a different sport, more difficult to do. He won MVPs and batting titles and all this kind of stuff. But, you know, I wonder, without knowing Shai, you know, he seems like a pretty reserved guy, seems like a good guy. I wonder if, like, he's cool with being a star down there, and he's got all the money and all endorsements, and he'd rather just come home and just be able to be comfortable. Right? And I wonder if that was the case with Joey Votto, and I've wondered that with other athletes, where, you know, also if they don't play in the country, like the reality is Austin Matthews is a bigger celebrity, clearly, in this country than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he's an American.
Mm-hmm.
But he plays here, and he plays for the biggest team. And Draisaitl is for sure.
Yeah.
So, like, I've had that conversation about Alphonso Davies, and it's like, well, he's playing in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So how big can you be here when you're not ever here? You're never playing here. And it's the same thing. Shai rolls through town once a year. It's difficult to have the same impact, I think, from an endorsement level, from a marketability level, if you're not playing, you know, here consistently. Now, when it does show up is when you wear the flag. That's when you really pop.
Well, and that did not go great.
It went horribly for the whole team, the Canadian team. But, again, with Davies going through CONCACAF, getting to the World Cup, like, that was big for him. He was everywhere at that point. So you got to capitalize when your time comes up. But I don't think it's possible to be like as gigantic as maybe you'd think if they don't play up here. Now, if Shai ever became a Raptor, that would be a completely different story.
Well, and I guess the reverse would be true. If McDavid was playing in the States.
Be very different. Like Sid is huge up here, but McDavid feels different to me because he's playing up here.
Yes.
He's in a Canadian market.
Yes.
Canadians have an attachment to him.
Like there's probably not many commercials or haven't been like in the States of Crosby, right?
Yeah, that's a good
Like
question.
the commercials he does here, we see them all the
Sid's
time.
big up here. Like
right?
Sid is a different level of legend than McDavid, Shea, Davies.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's won golden goals, Olympics, everything. Different. But yeah. All right. Noodles will be back. We got Cheryl Pounder coming up in studio. Pierre LeBrun will join us later this afternoon. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, next week, go time. The world's top golfers descend on TPC Toronto at Osprey Valley for the RBC Canadian Open. Here's your chance to win a pair of general admission any-day tickets to the tournament, a tournament that the O-Dog might be playing in. He may be a sponsor's exemption after allegedly shooting 64 today. The first caller through at 416-870-1050. 416-870-1050 will win the tickets and see all of the events at the course. Come for the golf, but stay for the food, drinks, and party. General admission tickets include live performances from Billy Talent and Sam Roberts Band during the SiriusXM concert series on Friday and Saturday night. Plus, catch First Stop Golf Talk Canada and OverDrive broadcasting live on site. Visit rbccanadianopen.com for your tickets today. Yeah, the O-Dog, I know the way he works, though. He would have told Koliakovo, shoot this video. I'll pretend I shot 64.
You
Crazy.
slander him a lot when he's not on the air, eh?
Oh, happily, yes. I love doing that. I'm always willing to do that. He does that with me, too. I'm off tomorrow, and he's not even going to be on tomorrow. But if he were, somehow it'd be my fault that there's an event I have to go to. But, yeah, I'll slander him every single chance I get. Happy to do that.
If you do write a speech, and let's say you don't win, sad.
Yeah,
Can
unfortunate.
you read the speech on the air later? I think you should do it.
You think I should write a speech that was never told?
Yes.
Okay. It was never recited?
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah, I should do that for finishing
And I think
second.
if you win, you should get a T-shirt made that says Hayes is not a fraud.
Yes.
And then open up your shirt and show your T-shirt.
And it'll be, I am a Canadian Screen Award winner. I will do that for you, Jonas. And I appreciate your support and everyone's support for that matter. So we'll keep people posted. If I lose, I finish second. And then I can still maybe recite the speech.
Yeah.
I'll come up with something tonight. Not expecting to win. All right, final hour coming up. Pierre LeBrun will join us. Our TSN hockey insider, Cheryl Pounder. We'll get to our best bets powered by FanDuel. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Final hour OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles McLennan, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. We got Game 5, Dallas-Edmonton tonight. Game 5, Knicks-Pacers tonight. Got the Jays back home facing Sacramento. I think that's who they're playing. The Sacramento Athletics. Soon
Is that
to
what
be
they're
Vegas.
called, the Sacramento Athletics?
I think they're just
They actually don't use Sacramento.
They just call the
just
Athletics.
The Athletics. Yeah,
It's like
they're
we
just
don't know where
Athletics.
they're playing.
The opposite of football club.
Right.
Like, it was like Washington Football Club,
Yeah.
Utah Hockey Club. This is just Athletics.
Now it's the Utah Mammoth.
The Utah
You
Mammoth.
getting used to that or no? You're not even.
Haven't used it enough. You know what story we haven't brought up today is this Alex Ovechkin Washington Capitals story.
It was a fake email, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know if people are falling for it or not because, like, you tell me your interpretation because the story was that someone from the team sent out an email to longstanding ticket holders that this upcoming season would be Alex Ovechkin's final season.
Right.
And then the team came out, I believe, and issued official statements saying, like, nothing has been decided. This is completely erroneous, blah, blah, blah.
But it wasn't a fake email.
No, it was like the Capitals are not responding to it if it's just completely fake. Because, again, they tweeted out, here it is up on the screen, no decision has been made on Alex Ovechkin's future following the 2025-26 NHL season. An email was sent from an individual with the corporate sales department that mistakenly alluded to next year being Alex Ovechkin's final year.
You should have said corporate sales department that used to work here.
Formerly of the, because
that guy got gassed.
my guess is there's a very good chance that next year's his last year.
Oh, yeah.
And they're prepping for it, and it's going to be a big, you're sending it, you're going to send it out, blast it out, make sure you come see Alex for the last time.
Yeah, the Jeter send-off.
Yes, because
Kobe.
now he's past Gretzky. He's won his cup. I believe it's the last year on his contract. Most people that I have read that cover him believe he's always going back to Russia. He'll probably own a KHL team, probably play for them for 4 or 5 years.
And
that's what's coming.
Type of thing, just play forever. But what is he at for goal? Because he's going to try and get 1,000 goals. That's on his dock.
He's not doing that in 1 year.
Right.
Like he just passed 894. He's at 895. Like he's not. He'd have to stick around for probably 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I guess he's not.
I don't think 1,000 goals is going to happen.
I think it's in the reach, eh?
I mean, listen, based on what he's done this year and what he does every year of his career, I think Ovechkin could continue to play and score for the next 4 or 5 years. Not at the same clip.
What do you have, 41?
Yeah, with a bad injury.
Yeah,
with a broken leg.
Like, I think this guy could be 43, 44, wheeling out there and score 20 or 25. But 1,000 is an arbitrary number. The chase was Gretzky.
Yeah, that's fair.
He got him. So I think personally, I think it's damage control because I think they might be prepping for it to be his last year. They may know it's his last year.
They may want to move past him at some point, too. Like we talk about, you put your business hat on. Yes, he is the Washington Capitals. But there is times where you're trying to go, at some point the wheels are going to fall off and he's going to get 12 goals. You got to get ahead of that too, right? Like Gretzky scored, 9 in his last year? Like that, that's not Wayne Gretzky. It used to be Wayne Gretzky. That's, it's a shell.
Yeah, and Gretzky took it upon himself to walk away.
Hey, check, please. Yeah.
I would think Ovechkin will do the same thing. Like, I just feel like guys at that level, they don't have to be dragged away from the game. They don't want to be embarrassed.
Right.
They see the writing on the wall. And he's done it all. He's accomplished everything. And if you're in Washington, this guy has given you 20 years of production and sales and tickets. And obviously he's won.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just that's got to be panic-inducing.
Somebody got in trouble for that,
dude. You got to be losing your mind if that's on your watch, like your email account. Who sent that out? Oh, it was Brian Hayes. Right?
It's an intern.
What if you got the renewal? Then you're good.
That's a good point. What if ticket holders were like, "Take my money. here's my card, charge me whatever you want, and you go in and say, listen, maybe I jumped the gun, but hey, we're really making some scratch here.
So you think it's somebody that was innovative, was like, hey, I'm going to do
great
this.
idea.
Possibly.
Because he's working on commission. It's
Exactly.
Like, hey, I'm going to double down.
Like I get 10% of everything I bring
almost
in,
the end
man.
of the week here. I'm going.
Yeah, I'm not letting someone else.
Actually, it's month end. So he wants to hit his month end sales.
That
so
could
he's
be
just
it.
making stuff up.
That could be it,
Could
man.
be. You never know.
That may actually be brilliant. Maybe he's playing 4D chess. We're all out here playing checkers,
Alex
thinking it was a
told me
mistake.
himself.
Yeah.
He's done.
Brilliant.
That's where Ovi has to maybe make like a statement on Instagram. Like he'll do a
Who
little
knows
video
where
saying,
Ovi is
I'm
right
playing.
now.
And look, I guarantee you, he's not ripped. He hasn't been working out since the end of the season.
No chance.
You see those videos of him in the summer, midsummer.
That guy's workout routine halfway through the year is a disaster. In May, if he's not still playing,
yeah,
it's not good.
no.
Here's Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. Pierre, is Alex Ovechkin playing hockey beyond next year in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, I don't think he's made that decision, but I think more likely than not, he is not. So I saw what happened there today. Obviously, the marketing side got tripped up with the hockey side there, but he's got a year left on his deal, and he's up there, as you guys just talked about. So if I had to guess, I would say it probably is, but I honestly don't think he's decided that. I could tell you that I think the team is pretty embarrassed at what happened today, from my understanding is. My sense of it is that it was an employee kind of acting on their own with good intentions, of course. But that was not a message from the hockey side for them to do that. So not a great day for the Caps. But everyone's turned the page. But listen, I get what you guys are saying. I mean, he's built like a tank, and he could still keep playing. I just kind of wonder about the motivation past next season, in my opinion.
That's fair. What about the motivation of a guy named Jonathan Toews?
Mm-hmm. Oh, good segue. I thought you were going to go to O-Dog 64.
No,
that's
that could
fake
be,
news
we might
anyway. He
think
didn't
that's
really
fake
shoot
news.
that.
There's a lot of people shooting it down right now.
Yeah, nowhere
Okay,
close.
okay.
84.
Okay. Because I once shot a 64 myself, but on the front nine.
Okay. All right. Me too, buddy. Me too.
Yeah. Jonathan Toews, I love hearing good news stories like this. And Toews, as I reported, reached out to his agent, Pat Brisson, yesterday at Noodles and said, I'm a go. I want to come back 100%. And, I was just talking with the team that reached out to me after I put out the tweet, and, they were wondering where Toews was at. And what I told this team is the same thing I would say right now to you guys. You guys have been around Jonathan Toews. If he says he's 100% committed to come back next year, he's 100% committed. Like the way that he is wired suggests to me that he would not want to waste anyone's time. That would embarrass him. He's been gone 2 years. This is a big challenge here, but he's been working out since the middle of winter. The team's actually calling Pat Brisson before the March 7th trade deadline, checking on him as a late season ad, but Toews wasn't ready for that. He wanted to make sure he was 100% ready for the fall, and made the decision yesterday that he likes where he's at physically, and Pat Brisson has indicated he's going to start talking to teams there at the Combine in Buffalo coming up. So what an interesting pickup for a team. I mean, this isn't a bank breaker here because he's 37 and with 2 years away from the game. This can be one of those bonus deals that barely touches your cap. And so you can put this guy in your third or fourth line if you're a contender and just, I think, reap the benefits.
Yeah, championship DNA. He's got that championship DNA, Pierre. And apparently that is what Brad Treliving is looking for. He said the DNA of the Maple Leafs has got to change. What is your interpretation of that in terms of players leaving, in terms of players coming in?
I tell you what, there's a lot of pressure on Jonas next because the segues between you and Noodles right now, Brian, are
crushing it.
Yeah.
On
These
fire.
guys are professionals. One of these guys is nominated for a Canadian Screen Award.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Wow.
I hate when we bring that
He's
up.
the
but thank
favorite.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a
You got me.
favorite.
I mean, Duffy only mentions it every time I talk to him.
Right.
But I was at the news conference today along with Jonas and CJ and everyone else, and obviously the money quote is the DNA quote, and let's see what that means in action. But I think that was set on purpose, and it came for context. It came right after he talked about his disappointment in Game 5 and Game 7. I also think that he's in a position now to actually do something about it, not just because obviously Marner may force the issue anyway in terms of changing the DNA, but because Shanahan's gone. And listen, on the one hand, Treliving was crushed when Brendan Shanahan was let go. Those two had forged a really close relationship, and I think it took Brad Treliving a few days to get his headspace in the right place because of that. But after meeting with Keith Pelley, and the one thing about where Treliving is now is that this is his team more than ever. And he does not have the loyalty factor to the Shanahan plan or to anyone involved in the past. He can make this team whatever he wants. And forcibly, he's going to have to anyway.
Well, so Pierre, perfect segue. John Tavares, we talked about him earlier in the show, and we all kind of noted that it was a little interesting that when Brad Treliving was asked about it, he didn't definitively say really anything. We want him back. We're gonna Did you find that interesting, or do you just think he is kind of keeping his options and cards, I guess, open?
So yeah, and it's a good question, Jonas. I actually clarified that with Brad Treliving after the news conference, and he did not mean that he wasn't interested in signing John Tavares. What he meant to say, and I guess it didn't come across clearly, is that he does not and will not comment on contract negotiations. So I think he got misconstrued, and I clarified that with him after. He was not commenting either way on where this was headed with Tavares and Marner. So I think Tavares ends up back as a Leaf, but what's happening right now in the offices of the Leafs there at Pro Performance Center is will have a huge impact on where this all goes. They've been in pro scouting meetings every day or for 2 days, and Treliving was in those meetings before today's news conference. He went back in them after today's, and they're looking at every single possibility around the league. They're putting up trade targets on the whiteboard. They're looking at life after Marner, if that's what happens. They're looking at what number works for Tavares, or if they can't sign him, how to replace him. They're going through all those machinations as we speak. Well, while the four of us are on this hit here.
Yeah, so I guess ultimately the DNA conversation, in your opinion, or based on what you just said, is that simply Marner then? If Tavares is going to come back, then the way the DNA changes is Mitch Marner, and it may not even be their decision. It's that Mitch just wants to leave. So What does that accomplish in the end if, Marner's the only guy that goes and Tavares returns and a lot of the core players are back? I believe you said earlier today Morgan Riley's not going anywhere.
He's not going to waive. Yeah.
He's not going to waive, so I guess they're not even going to bother asking him. Listen, Marner leaving is significant. I'm not downplaying that. If that happens, if he walks, that's huge. He's been here for 9 years. He's a big part of the culture that they've built here. But in your opinion, Pierre, is that enough? Would that basically would that allow you to look back on what Treliving said today and give him the check in the box and say, okay, accomplished that?
I would say let's re-examine this in September when we're all back from shooting 64s every day in our golf case, because I think by the end of these scouting meetings, I think the Leafs are going to have a pretty aggressive game plan. I don't know what it looks like yet because they don't know. They're going through all the machinations right now. I don't think Marner potentially leaving is the only thing. I think the Leafs are going to be involved in a lot of trade discussions to try and impact what they have here, is my thought. And again, I think a lot of that is because there's an acknowledgement from Brad Treliving that as improved as this team was this year from last year, and I think it really was under Craig Berube, it's still not good enough. And it's, one of the acknowledgments from Treliving today, and I got to be careful I'm not reading too much into it, but I don't know what you guys think. He can't live in the fact that he's only been here 2 years and Craig Berube has only been here 1 year. In a vacuum, losing to 7 to Florida, heck, the Leafs might have ended up giving Florida the toughest step by the time this is all done, these playoffs. Let's see. But that's not what this is about. If that was good enough, ownership wouldn't have fired Brendan Shanahan. This is about 9 years of DNA to get back to DNA. And I think what Treliving talked about today, to me, was the strongest I've heard him yet acknowledging the playoff scarring and what transpired before he got here. I think he was worried about going there before because he was new and was trying to gain the trust of these players and so on. I think today he's basically saying, okay, I get it. I'm with you guys on this now.
Do you think it was weird that Keith Pelley wasn't there?
I mean, Pelley did warn everyone that last Friday that was our shot at him. So I guess it wasn't weird to me. If you're paying attention, he's going to have about one a year, though. Between all these, there's not going to be a lot of Keith Pelley news conferences, So I guess from that perspective, Noodles, I didn't think it was strange. They wanted to do it together last week, and as Treliving explained, he was back home for his daughter's graduation, which we all understand. And they should have done it together, but the timing of all this, wasn't controlled. It brings me, by the way, speaking of timing, to another point that is interesting with all this. If you go back to the start of Shanahan, is that Shanahan comes in, and then one of his first big things is he hires Mike Babcock. Then he hires Lou Lamoriello. And then if you keep looking at the lineage of all this, it's interesting that the hires between GM and coaches never quite line up. So, like Treliving now has 2 years left on his deal. Craig Berube has 3 years left on his deal. So it dating right back to Shanahan, then Babcock, then Lamoriello, then Dubas, and then Dubas, of course, fired Babcock, promoted Keith. All these things have never quite lined up. And Keith lasts a year past Dubas, which is strange in some ways, right? so there's actually an interesting line to put through all of this in terms of not quite lining up the hires throughout the organization, which doesn't mean they can't figure this out. It's just interesting.
Can I ask all you guys a question?
Sure.
Is their setup now better? Because, I understood and agree with the time had come for Brendan Shanahan, but now you just remove him.
They're weaker because they don't have a
That's what I mean.
Strong hockey.
I'm not sure that this is better.
It's he's a regardless of what you believe about Brendan Shanahan, his vision, all of that, he's still a darn good hockey mind.
Right, and someone for Brad Treliving to bounce.
He's not there. So now you're going to call Keith Pelley and go, well, I'm going to sign this guy or I'm going to do that. And he's going to go ahead. I trust you. But Keith Pelley can't weigh in on the pros and cons of signing him
that guy in the playoffs,
doesn't know hockey, right?
Yeah.
Like Brandon Shanahan does. So I would be the first answer. The organization is technically weaker today without Brandon Shanahan at least being a sounding board for Brad Treliving.
Well, and that's why my question to Treliving today was how he felt now that he's met with Pelley a bunch of times, how he felt his day-to-day was going to change. And he was careful in his answers, as you might suspect, but I think he probably still doesn't quite know, is my guess. Is he going to Pelley every day for updates?
Well, Pierre, you were at the skates. Every single morning skate, every practice, who was standing there together? Shanahan, Pelley, or Shanahan, Treliving? Pelley's not going to be there.
They were very close, absolutely. And, well, actually, the comment of the week I read, I might have been underneath one of your stories, Jonas, but one of our athletic readers said, one of our athletic readers suggested that the OverDrive trio of hosts led by Noodles, Hayes, and O-Dog should be the new presidents of hockey in Toronto. But
brilliant.
I didn't.
I like that.
I should have retweeted that somehow. I'm not too technical. I don't know how to do it from a technology.
Just tell Treliving to call these guys when he wants to do something.
We'll tell him.
That's the way. That's what I would tell Trey.
That's right.
Afford us.
Downgrade.
But to close the loop on Shannon, I guess I would say this about 11 years is a long time, but B, if the Leafs take that next step, and I don't think Brad Treliving is going to be scared to be aggressive here. At the very least, and I said this at the onset, but I think this is an important nuance. He's going to miss Shanahan for all the reasons you just said, Noodle, sounding board and all.
Yep.
But he's also now freed of Shanahan's vision. Say what you want, but Shanahan hired Treliving. And from that moment on, 2 years ago, Treliving to some degree is beholden to completing Shanahan's mission statement. That's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he's freed of it. Now freedom is, that can go a lot of different ways. I mean, yes, you're free to make this your own team, but now let's see what happens, I guess.
Well, and that's what it comes down to. I mean, if again, Marner and Tavares, they're the ones that are going to be highlighted between now and July 1st, but Matthew Nyes will be a part of this conversation as well, as he's a restricted free agent. And I don't think this has come up enough either with the DNA of the organization. We're focused on the players in the room and games and all that. The organization needs to change their DNA also when it comes to propping up their own players and just paying them and overpaying them and never winning any negotiations. Like, that's something that I think Brad Treliving has to reflect upon. That, again, you talk about the Shanahan shackles maybe being removed. This is an area where it should start.
Right.
Like, we love you, Matthew Nyes. We want to get something done. We're not paying you a penny more than you'd get anywhere else. And don't expect it because you're a Maple Leaf and because the other guys did. It's got to stop. It has to stop.
Well, and he doesn't have arbitration this summer, so they can squeeze.
But there is the one thing that's looming.
Offer sheet?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can just match, right?
You're right, but that's overpaying because somebody will overpay on an offer sheet.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm the lone voice in the wilderness on that whole subject, Noodles. But the player has to be complicit in an offer sheet scenario. I don't see any evidence of Matthew Nyes, and I asked him point blank on his last day there on the cleanout. You know, you have to be complicit in that scenario. I mean, Sebastian Aho had to be complicit with his agent Jerry Johansson that they were going to do that contract with the Habs just so that Carolina could match it. I mean, it's
you don't just say offer sheet and then
I get it, but my counter to that is, and I don't know who his agent is, and I'm just going to blanket this statement. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but if the agent wants to be a dink and go, all right, well, you're going to, Tree, you're locking it down. Well, we might have to look at other avenues because the agent can get in the ear and go, okay, they want to pay you, $4 million a year on a bridge deal, 2 years at $4 million on a bridge. I've got a team that wants to offer you $8 million on a 7-year deal or whatever. Right. Would you sign that? Would you, again, this is an agent that's getting in the player's ear. And believe me, agents do get into players' ear regardless of what the player wants to do. The player can say, I want to stay. I want to do all this. Let's just work it out. But when it comes to business, there could be some stupidity here. That's what I'm saying.
And then it comes down to, I think Matthew Nyes is completely in as a Leaf. And maybe I don't know the young man well enough that I'm wrong about that. But I'll give you an example. When Aho did that offer sheet with his agent, the same agent represented Braden Point, who was also RFA that summer. And I can guarantee you that Mark Bergevin, who was GM of the Habs at the time, actually went to Braden Point first and tried to see if that was an offer sheet situation for Montreal.
Sure.
And the player's like, no, I got a good thing going here in Tampa. I'm not messing with that. Even if it was just for Tampa to match. Braden Point wanted no part of it. And so this is my point about it's fine and dandy as an agent to say, I got leverage and don't worry, you're not leaving the lease. I'm just doing this to get you money. You still got to get in the mental place as a player where you're willing to take that risk and alienate the fan base. And I don't know that Matthew Nyes is. But final point I'll make, because I thought, Brian, you bang on about future negotiations here. I will say, like Brad Treliving's first major contract negotiation, if I got my dates right, was Nylander, which took a while. And it took a while because Treliving actually did go pretty hard on that one. That was nasty at first between him and Louis Gross in that negotiation. And I will tell you now that even maybe if the number didn't end up where you wanted, Brian, that's not a bad contract today, given where Nylander is in his production and where the cap is going. So I guess I would say is I think that Treliving right out of the gate tried to go down that route in terms of we're not just giving you what you want.
Yeah, although I actually think his first one was Austin, and it was blank paid, blank check. What do you want? It was 4 years, never 8.
Right.
It was Matthews, and Matthews took them to the cleaners. But,
Good point. But no leverage with your franchise.
Well, or you could say, do you really want to be here? Do you really want to win? DNA, culture, you could do that, but Draisaitl did it, and McDavid did it, and anyway, it doesn't matter. We're moving on.
You're not bitter at all.
No, not in the least. Moving on. All right, Pierre, good stuff, buddy. We'll do it again soon.
Oh man, I love it. Right on. All right, see you guys.
Pierre LeBrun, our TSN hockey insider. Yeah,
that is a tough deal to walk right into, though. You got to do Matthews coming off of 70 or Hart? I can't
No,
remember.
it was the year before.
No, yeah.
He didn't have a great year that year, based on his standards. He had like 41 goals, 42 goals.
Oh, so there was some injury in that. Remember? He wasn't. Yeah.
But I guess, was it after they beat Florida? They got to the Florida. Yeah, they beat
it was after
Tampa,
Florida.
and they got to Florida. Listen, Austin was always going to write his own ticket. I get it.
Fair.
And ultimately, the player is going to make that call, and he made that call.
Yeah.
But I'm always curious, like, how much can you entice them? Are you comfortable in really trying to push them in a direction? Or is it, hey, you guys just tell us whatever you want?
I think you can, if you have a good relationship with the agent, you tell him what you want, and then you find out what he wants, and you try and find common ground, and you push the envelope. I mean, I'm sure the Leafs are like 8 years, whatever the number, let's figure this out. And they're like, well, hold on here. We want to go shorter. Okay, well, let's do 6, like, who knows? Like, it ended up at, what, 4?
It ended up
right?
at 4, yes. Which I'm guessing is exactly what Austin wanted.
Of course.
And I don't think the Leafs got anything out of that deal. But
Well, they got Austin Matthews.
They got
Went
Matthews.
to the organization
who's the player?
for 4 more years on
Yep.
top of the year that he was on. So it was really a 5-year deal.
Yeah, it was an extension.
Right.
Yes, he's still got 3 years left.
Yeah.
And Austin's not going anywhere. Willie's not. Obviously, doesn't sound like Riley's going anywhere. So if those 3 guys are coming back, those are 3 guys who have been here for a long time.
What does Morgan have left? 5?
Yeah, 5 years at $7.5 million per year.
What do you think the best contract that they've gotten in this era is? Like, it's hard off the top of your head, but I'm trying to think.
Oh, it's probably Nazem, like his first year, like
The 4.5.
Kadri's.
4.5, 3
Yeah,
years. or
brilliant
4.5?
deal. 6 years, 4.5. Even I think Riley's was
Yeah,
6
it
at
was the
5,
same. Yeah,
wasn't
it
it?
was
Like the
similar,
first
yeah.
one.
That was pretty good.
That was a good deal. That's a good question.
Yeah, they haven't gotten a ton.
Yeah, like they haven't had brutal deals because they've had good players.
What's
Yeah.
the
You know what I
worst
mean?
then? They had David
Zaitsev.
Clarkson.
Zaitsev's was a bad one. Clarkson was the previous
Marlowe?
administration.
Is in the conversation.
Marlowe's in the conversation.
That was, what, 3 years at 7?
Zaitsev is the top of the mountain,
that was
and I
tough.
would say Marlowe would be in contention.
Wasn't Zaitsev like $4 million a year, though?
7 years. I think it was 4.5.
Yeah, it was like 4.5, but like there was no need for a long-term deal. It was totally unnecessary.
Yeah, he went to Ottawa and then Chicago.
Well, they had to flip him with Dion and Connor Brown,
Yeah.
right? Wasn't it? Did Dion go in that deal? Maybe Dion didn't go in
Connor
that
Brown
deal.
went in that
Connor Brown. Dion went maybe a little bit earlier than that. Anyway, all right, best bets coming up later in the hour. Cheryl Pounder will join us around the table. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, we'll get to our best bets later in the hour. We've got a hockey game tonight, a basketball game tonight. The Jays are playing the Athletics. Should be the Sacramento Athletics. It should be. Soon to be Vegas
Are they terrible
Athletics.
too?
No, actually.
Actually, they're better. Well, it's relative.
They're almost as good as the Jays.
Okay,
Seriously, look at that record.
I know, but what does that mean,
What does that
Jonas?
mean?
Well,
That
they've
doesn't
been really
mean
bad
anything.
for a long time.
No, I understand.
The Jays are supposed to be good,
Are they?
and they're not.
No, they're not. Cheryl Pounder's with us. What's up, Cheryl?
Not much. Just got back from the PWHL, the
Yeah.
finals.
Yes.
So I was running around, going back and forth, eating a lot of snacks. Every single game went to overtime. So
Yes.
that was nuts.
I saw that. My boy Rob Pizzo, who I love.
Oh, Rob's
Pizzo's my
awesome.
guy.
That's
Yeah,
your
he's
boy,
awesome.
yeah.
He was
I love
bringing
Rob.
me snacks.
Yeah, I
no
know.
pickle juice or mustard, but we managed to get something.
Voice would go like you're triple overtime, right?
We had a triple, 3 singles, but in the semis we went almost the distance on a full 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder whether they'll table a different format going forward. We
Yeah.
might be
Go to
for it.
3-on-3 or something,
Yeah,
or no?
I don't know. Maybe 5-on-5, 1, then 4-on-4, and
Yeah,
then maybe
yeah.
3-on-3. I mean. As an athlete, I kind of, I want to stay 5-on-5, but then I do understand,
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
So Minnesota's won now back-to-back years. So how do we frame this in terms of dynasties and stuff? Like the league is growing, but it's so early into the process here. How would you describe? Have they clearly been the best team? Through the 2 years, in your opinion, or
Well, they've clearly been the best when the time
The
has
playoffs.
mattered,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
thought I
because
heard
they've
it-
limped in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I heard they weren't the best team. They just happened to win at the right time.
Oh,
type of
exactly.
thing.
But that's when
maybe
you're
I'm wrong.
supposed to win.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, so there was a Super Saturday, and I call it Super Saturday because the 3 and 4 seed, which wind up clinching Ottawa and Minnesota, they got in on that last day.
Right.
And then they were able to knock off the 1 and 2 and get to the final, and then Minnesota going back to back. But depth was critical for them. I think when you play that many overtimes, your depth is fresh. You're fresher,
Yeah.
shall I say. And so Minnesota's depth got it done for them in game 3 and 4 in the overtime to win it. But great goaltending, back and forth goaltending, good pace. I don't know how they had their legs, especially in game number 4 in the opening period. But they did. So
Good for them.
yeah, it was great.
They
it was
pulled it
great.
off.
I never asked you, do you agree with, and we talked about it on our show, there was one, series where the team chose the team.
Montreal
right?
chose Ottawa
Yeah, so-
instead of Minnesota.
Yeah, so basically with the PWHL, they say they've kind of written their own rule book. I actually like it, guys, because they're saying, listen, we want to be entertaining. We want to recognize year by year, what kind of changes we need to make.
Right.
And so they decided, the number 1 seed gets to choose 3 or 4. And so there's a little bit of bulletin board material there,
Yeah, I was
right? A
gonna
little bit
say,
of you chose us. I mean, the Ottawa charge, the fans were chanting that when they won. You
Really?
chose us. It was actually hilarious. But yeah, whether it's the jailbreak, you get out of the box, if your team scores shorthanded, and then they also had a no escape rule this year, which they implemented, which basically was trying to generate a little more offense on power plays. So the offending team had to stay on the ice. So the group that was on the ice. So let's say you have, it's your center that takes the penalty. Well, who's going to go in the dot? Or it's usually, it could be a defender. So now you got 3 forwards and a D on the ice. Okay. And so, at least to start. So it kind of changes, the dynamic of the specialty teams and sort of the approach. If you're in a delayed penalty, you give it to them. You want those players to stay on the ice. Do you not? Where are you on the ice? So there's just so much to kind of lean into.
How long do you think they'll test these things out before, the PWHL and maybe it filters throughout the women's game in general? They go, okay, we've hit it, we got it, we like this formula, we're going with it.
Well, I think it'll stay within the professional ranks. I think the only thing that would be up for discussion potentially would be sort of the contact and the physicality within the game, because all of a sudden you get there and, you're learning on the fly a little bit. Right. So I think that could be something that gets broached at the highest levels underneath if they do decide to go to that. But in terms of all of these other things, jailbreaks, I think they'll be housed in the PWHL because they've kind of got their own constitution. They can do whatever they want. But yeah, especially with expansion, we'll see what happens. But they've always said they don't necessarily want to play it safe. If they get it wrong, they can claw back.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I like, right?
Yeah, it's your league, exactly.
It's their league, and the first jailbreak was Emma Maltais last year, and I had to remind myself, right? Because you're like, wait a second, she's out of the box, right? This, and everyone's going nuts, and it's just a different approach. Now all of a sudden on the PK, it's a little more aggressive depending on where you are in the game. So maybe it's like a power kill mentality. So yeah, just changes the dynamic of who you play on a PK too if you need a goal.
Absolutely. Cheryl Pounder with us around the table. You and Noodles and Dregs and Duthie will be on the panel tonight. Game 5, Oilers, Stars. We haven't mentioned Thomas Harley coming out and basically saying, I'm happy Hyman's out and not playing. But he's just being honest. I mean, why wouldn't you be? Like, I get that it's uncomfortable because the guy's injured. Now he's going to be out, and he's likely done for the year. But if you're Dallas, that clearly is a massive advantage that Hyman's not playing tonight.
100%. I mean, don't you? This is a top-tier player. He's got the most hits in the playoffs. Like, he is a guy that is an engine that drives the line. I mean, the comments.
Why don't we play the comments? Why don't we play it? Let's play these. This was Thomas Harley earlier today on Hyman not playing.
He's a great player. He was playing very physically, which I think the defenseman noticed. And even when he's not scoring, he'd be affecting the game in that way. So, I'm happy he's not playing. Obviously, injuries suck, but he's a good player, and if he's not on their team, they're a little bit worse.
Yeah, 100% accurate.
What everyone's thinking.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
He just says it out loud, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not a better team without him.
Yeah.
So if you're Harley and you're paying the price down low because he's consistently hitting in the game, he's thinking, he just said it. That's really the difference.
Jeff Skinner, who's replacing him, not going to run him over.
Guess what they'd also like? McDavid to get hurt.
Yeah.
In warm-up tonight, not play.
Yeah.
And then Draisaitl, and then, that's what you want. I get it. It sounds weird, but it's a massive competitive advantage. And they need it because they're down 3-1 in the series.
Well, yeah, and, depending on, Dallas, right? They're such a good team. They're so fast. They can play off the rush, and Edmonton's done such a good job negating that. But when you look at the physicality, I mean, you don't just replace Zach Hyman, right? Whether Corey Perry plays up there or not, you can get net front, but you're not Zach Hyman, right? No. You're not bringing that game.
They're not. He's not wrong. It's just, I just didn't hear Edmonton, when Hintz wasn't available.
Well, they thought he was probably playing, though. It was a game-time decision. They didn't get a chance at the quote.
He took warm-up and then didn't play, but, and then Bouchard gave him a whack on the laces last game.
That's right.
So, you're right. It's a competitive.
They won Game 3 when Hintz didn't play. It was good for them. It worked out in the end.
And they're trying. Listen, they're trying. We were talking about it off air. Like, selfishly, we want Edmonton to get through so we can have a night off. But in the end, I mean, I think Dallas is going to have a big push tonight. And why wouldn't they in their own building?
It'd be nice if they could get the good first goal, though.
Yeah,
not chase the game. I think that's been a big thing for them, right? Chasing the game in every single game. So we'll see. I think I hit the net.
Yes.
Right? They've had
that would go a long way.
39 shot attempts, 15 missed nets in the first period.
In the first period alone.
There's the analytics guy. You'd be
Jonas.
I'm not an. Yeah,
you're not an analytics guy.
It's just with you guys.
We're such cavemen.
Everybody's an analytics guy compared to us.
Yes.
Right? Like the guy who sits
in particular.
Okay, but there is a time though, right, when you're like, oh, that was a miss. Oh, that was a miss. Right. Oh, that was a miss. And then you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, it's the eye test matches. A lot of the time you'll look at it and you'll be like, yeah, whatever. Or you'll be looking for a trend. But in that scenario, when they continue to miss and especially when they're in high danger spots and had some good high danger looks. So
well, that might be the Skinner effect because he is a monster, right? Like you've talked about it with big goalies when they're in rhythm and they're playing well and they're that big. Yeah, like you feel like you got to be perfect, and when you're shooting to be perfect, it generally doesn't work that way.
Like you do have to. Like sometimes I would rather, and DeBoer kind of came out and almost stopped short of it the other night. The 15 missed shots, if they get 7 more shots on goal, that's, even if they don't score, that's rebounds, that's drawing penalties, that's doing that's creating havoc right down at the net. Instead of missing the net and going off the glass, and now you're chasing it and you're worried about 97 and 29 going the other way, speed, maybe picking up something off the glass. So, I think that will be their focus. There's slight adjustments. These games haven't been 6-1. I mean, on the score sheet they have been, but from a chance standpoint, they haven't been.
They've been
a lot
close
closer
games.
than you think.
Yeah.
Like a lot closer.
Yeah, and Skinner's been a big part of that.
Yeah.
He's been huge.
Absolutely.
He's bin huge.
Cheryl Pounder with us. So another truth is that Florida wants Dallas to win tonight. You would think, right?
Yeah.
Just extend the series.
Extend it.
Where are you at with Florida, like this year compared to last, or even the year before? I mean, 3 straight Cup finals. It's incredibly impressive. Recency bias, but it feels like they're better than ever, and they're
Up and
almost
down the
unstoppable.
lineup, right?
It's
I mean, up and
incredible.
down the lineup. Just watching them against Canes, just the pressure they apply on their opponent. I mean, it's not just the first guy that pays the price; it's the second guy in, and then it's the third guy in. Yeah. And I mean, imagine a young guy playing against that team, just going, "What is coming at me right now?"
Exactly.
And I find that that's the thing, right? It's up and down the lineup. It's not just one or two guys. They've all kind of bought into what it takes and fighting for those spots on the ice, trying to win those puck battles. But it's that disruption right away. So that second guy comes in. Next thing you know, he's hit too. And then the next one, and he's down. So I just find it's just a wave. But it's up and down the lineup, guys.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
so
that
good.
third line, like, it's absolutely incredible in the timing of the goals. Even if it was, the fourth line contributing. Just when you have a connected lineup like that, it's just saying something, and they're going to be a tough out.
I agree, and they're mean too. That's the one thing. The broadcast had a, kind of a video montage of every player that came off the bench would just take a piece of somebody. Even at a whistle, like a little shot here, a little punch there. Like, it's just, Florida's got this mindset, and it is to a man. Doesn't matter if you're Marchand, Tkachuk, or even a guy like Barkov, giving push, or Reinhart. Yeah. They're all in there. Like, they're all like, they've got that pack. And I know it's such a cliche, that wolf mentality, the pack mentality. They have it, and they're in on everything.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, they are, and this is where you need the combination of that and the skill and the talent, right,
It's their
Jonas?
DNA, Jonas.
Intangibles and
DNA.
tangible. Oh, God.
Yes.
I think I'm going to be really tired of DNA in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. There was a lot of that chatter today with Brad Treliving.
Yeah.
What are you bracing for this offseason with the Maple Leafs?
I think it'll be change. I mean, if you're making comment about DNA, that's like fabric.
Yes, you cannot change.
Like and again, I mean, I'm not him, it's not coming out of my mouth, but if you were to sort of interpret it, when I interpret it DNA, like when you're talking about a team,
that's who
it's
you
like
are.
The fabric of your team. Yeah. And so I go right to, sort of the bullets. And so, your core DNA, your core fabric, which would lead you to believe there's going to be some significant change, because that's what it is, right? Like, it's not necessary. I don't think it's a mindset. That's completely different to me.
Yeah,
who you are.
Yeah.
It's your DNA. It's how you tick. It's
I would just be worried like that you swing too far the other way and you just go too intangibly. Which isn't a word, but what I mean?
I understand what you're saying, and that's on Treliving to make sure that there's balance. I mean, again, you're going to have a lot of players still returning. You're not turning over.
Most of the team will return.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's like 70-80% of your team is probably going to return. So with that in mind, how much can you really change? But it does seem like with what the Marner stuff is where we're going. We've been talking about it for weeks. We're going to talk about it for another month. The idea of where he could end up next. Like, let's presume he leaves Toronto. Do you guys have anywhere?
I did
in
a
mind?
ranking, actually.
You have a ranking?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
You got something on the fly here?
No, I did this the other day. We were talking about it internally at the Athletic, just batting around.
You guys just
Okay,
old
what
school
do you got?
journalism?
What do you got for
Here,
us?
let me just write it down what I had in my thing.
All right. What do you have, a
teams,
5-pack?
I had 5 teams. I'm trying to remember what the 5th team was.
Go ahead.
So the 5 teams that I had, and this is just
Now, they make the most sense for
High
Marner
in the
in which
sky.
way? Because he'd make the most money, because he'd have a bigger role, because they can win. Like
combination of all of those things.
Okay. What do you have?
So should I rank them in order?
No, go
No,
from...
just
All right, I'll just give you 5. Vegas.
okay. Yeah. I got that.
Tampa, Florida, Colorado, Carolina. What do you think of those? And the other team was LA.
Yeah, see, LA, I feel... See, it's interesting you say that, because I don't see how he walks into a room in Florida. Like,
Neither
everything
do
you
I.
just said.
Why? They'll be like, you can just be one of us. This is not Toronto.
He's not one of us. He's not one of them.
And your head's going to pop off. The only way he ends up in Florida is either low double digits, like $10 million a year, or something under that.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
not
exactly.
giving
They're
him
not
40.
paying. They're not.
That will kill you if that happens.
I have a question though. You got a winning formula there.
Yep.
and we talked about DNA. They clearly have a specific DNA.
Mm-hmm. But
so you want to just.
But remember, what did people say about Seth Jones before he went there? It was like, this guy, the analytics are terrible, and then he goes there and it's like, oh my God, this guy's amazing.
Sure. Whose spot is he taking there?
I don't know.
That would be my question.
I'll never underestimate that front office, because we look at them and we're like, they can't do that. And they're like, yeah, actually we can do that. We'll just trade for Brad Marchand. It's like, oh.
Yeah, but you're right. But the rest of the league was stupid not to jump in on that.
You're right.
Including the team in this town.
Unless Marchand just told Boston.
Yeah, that is very possible.
That's probably what happened.
That is very possible. But one thing I would say is, if Marner goes to Florida and takes less, that will blow open the state tax conversation in this league. Sure. People, and deservedly so, because there's a split conversation. Is it a story? Is it not a story? What about all those years where it didn't work with Florida? If Marner goes and goes, I'll go to Florida for 10 because it's actually more money, then there's just no hiding it anymore.
I'm the other way, where he goes, I know I can't win here, but I think I can win there.
Now, if that's the argument, then okay, that is something that also people up here would be disappointed with, because, well, why didn't you show up in the big moments to help them win? You've had ample opportunity, but it would go again. Then why did you demand all that money 6 years ago? Why did you hold out? If it wasn't about money and winning, all of a sudden it's about winning when you leave? I feel like it's more like an Anaheim.
That's what I think.
Yes.
Why?
Because they're an up-and-coming team. Joel Quenneville just got there. Quenneville's a great coach.
You got some young talent. You got to get to the playoffs.
As far away from Toronto as you can get.
Then sign in LA. At least that team
maybe
is
he will.
maybe ready to.
Maybe he will.
I could see LA.
Maybe
what
LA.
About Utah?
Exactly.
Why?
Yeah, I see Utah.
I think Utah is up and coming. If you actually look at their roster, they've got some good young players.
Keller.
They do.
Yeah.
And they've got some draft picks coming. We're looking at the team now. Bill Armstrong could have a real.
And but who else?
What about this team? Nashville.
Yeah.
They trade Marcia,
I could see Barry Trotz doubling down.
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess it's what's important.
Ryan
I
O'Reilly's
don't know.
there.
They're not winning.
I hear you.
Maybe that's not important. I don't know.
I don't know. But if it is winning, then those teams you mentioned make a ton of sense.
Like Colorado, to me, would make a ton of sense. Play with McKinnon.
They have that money.
But they weren't willing to pay Rantanen. Why would they pay him?
That's a good question.
Anyway.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that. I'm like, I'm going bingo.
Anyway.
OverDrive after hours.
We'll pick this up next. Good seeing you, Cheryl. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
There's Cheryl Poundor. You'll catch her on the panel tonight. The Hot Zone, right? You guys are rocking the Hot Zone on YouTube. We're up on YouTube Live right now on the TSN YouTube channel. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I was on Florida last night. I thought it would just come to an end. I hit that parlay last night, too.
Did you?
Yes, Panthers win. I had Barkov and Reinhart to record points. They needed that Verhaeghe goal to do that. They ended up with multiple points in the end because Bennett scored in the OT winner or in the empty net.
Yeah.
Tonight, though, I'm going the opposite way. I'm going Dallas wins to keep the series alive tonight. And Mikko Rantanen's got to snap out of it.
Yeah.
Anytime point tonight for Rantanen. That's paying like plus 110. It's basically a pick 'em, but I'm on the Stars and Rantanen to record a point. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every Stanley Cup playoff game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19 plus, physically located in Ontario. All right, thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, and, of course, up on YouTube Live. Every show up on YouTube on the TSN
comments, everything.
YouTube channel. Comments, everything. And it's posted afterwards. You can go watch the whole show. You can watch clips. You can watch whatever you need. Jonas, good seeing you.
Good seeing you,
Good
guys.
stuff, Jonas.
There's Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.